welcome to another live reading. Our scroll for today will be Actual Fact, series number 73, entitled His Story, in our own Lineage, that's Qasas-huu. All right, so I'd like to thank everyone for their patience, as sometimes I'm running errands before I read, so I appreciate that. So we're going to just take a moment, just going to do a quick smile breath for ourselves and each other to bring us all down and grounded so we can digest our scroll a lot better. All right. So breathing, always take a moment to breathe. All right. And then we're going to acknowledge our master teacher, do our affirmation, and we're going to get right into our reading. So let's just start with a smile breath. All right. Stand up. All right. And just take a deep breath in. All right. You're going to allow your anatomy to move as it was designed, as Paa Taraq, all right, as Mundaru, ones who are of natural nature, all right, being a Mundaru, all right. So put yourself back into the form of natural nature. Start through your smile, meaning your all expanding breath, all right. Our highest priority is Ashuk, the divine love, the all-expanding love, all right? That starts with yourself, all right? That starts inside yourself, and that expands outward from that 0 point reference, which is you, all right? So that's how you can imagine your breath, and you're tapping into your full potential, all right? So now you're going to say, am my lungs operating in its full potential, all right? Am I slouching? Because if you try to slouch and you try to take a deep breath in, you won't be able to, all right? So you'll feel your posture, everything aligned, all right? And now you can think of the mugaraj, right? The alignments, all right? So this is your own personal mugaraj that you're making every day. Because did you know breathing itself is a prayer? So we're going to get into the rhythm of life because we know everything is about rhythm, vibrations, all right? So let's get back into the rhythm of Paa Taraq, natural nature, the very forces of natural nature. All right, so you feel your diaphragm descend downward. That's your stomach going out. And then it's acting like a vacuum, pulling air into your mid-lungs. And if you keep inhaling, the air starts moving upward as everything descends downward, expands out, and then it expands upward. All right? And then you hold the breath for a moment because you're absorbing the sakhem. That's the life force. All right? And other natural races may know it as many different things, such as prana, chi, all right? That's the counterpart of oxygen. And it's abundant everywhere, all right? Especially in the air. So you're absorbing that, and then you exhale. So you feel the support of Paa Taraq, and you breathe in the wisdom, the ashuk, the healing from your ancestors and the very forces of natural nature, and feel it empower you. And then empower your fellow brothers and sisters with that same breath, all right? And that's why you say, Paa Taraq la yerawuk em Yaanun, Paa Baabaa Yaanun. Open the way to the soul, the breath of life, the spark of life of Yaanun. Open the door towards Hun, all right? And you're going to notice that door is inward as that bridge to salvation takes us to Paut, the all expanding, all right? Or all, where the articles within all is all playing its part, including yourself, all right? So for yourself being in harmony and at peace with yourself, and you make peace with your fellow brothers and sisters. Now we have created this divine circle of Ashuk, all right? And you feel yourself come down, feel yourself being more accepting and loving, all right? So now that we have created a certain mentality and raised our vibration and created this circle of Ashuk, we invite our master teacher into the center as Zeti, all right? As our nucleus who brings us all together for the purpose of Ashuk, for the purpose of healing our own story and telling our own story, All right. So our teacher is a living and breathing flesh and blood moon dog, like us, everything that we can be. All right. As it's a reminder, all right, as it's remembering tools to activate that divinity within each and every one of us as one soul. All right. One family, one mission, one vibration. So we say, Baror, 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 Nabab Natad Muktad. Holy, 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 Master Overseer Almighty. All right. What's more mightier than poets? The all expanding. And all of us. All right. The whole picture, everything that ever was, everything that ever will be. All right. As the holy seed. Now it's Muktad Badet Patah. Now it's Muklas Badet Yanun. No God except Patah. No Savior except Yanun. Because Ashuk is the key, but it is you who opens the door. So become a mukta, become one who opens by your mipta, by your very thing of opening, all right? And then notice that it is your breath, all right? Sitting right underneath what they call the third eye, all right? So the third eye, we know now, is linked to Ashuk, all right? It's linked to our higher senses. It's linked to Pa'ut, and no Savior except Yanun, because we cannot hide from ourselves as we notice that door inward, the very soul of the people. Adoy Kalat, Sapolorat, Wufa Kor, Bisamus, Pa Pa'ut. Begin all prayers and thinking by using the all expanding, and use that thing of all expanding, use your breath. Paa Taraq, Anunnaki, Jawef, Pa Ashuk, and Pa Pa'ut. Wu Kalal, Ashuk, Kawun, Jawef, Niya. Anunnaki, Kasamun, and Pa Pa'ut. Wu Pa Pa'ut, Kawun, Kasamun, and Niya. Anunnaki, Wahu, Ame, Pa Pa'ut. Wu Pa Pa'ut, Kawun, Wahu, Ame, Niya. Nakok Kadod Naja, Ame, Kasam, and Pa Pa'ut. Wu Chabub, Ame, Muskas, Nakok Kadod, Kawan, Kalal, Pafef, Nakok Ayo, Jawef, Pa Pa'ut. Ame wase ame ayani kawun lake bako jawef Pa Pa'ut. Anuki abed biye nafashni. Pa Pa'ut kawun anuki. Pa Pa'ut kador nakuk kador. Pa Pa'ut amol nakuk amol. Thank you for incarnating our master teacher to a flesh and blood example, just like us in this day and time, for the purpose of renewing our story. And thank you for the information itself. This is the scroll we will be reading today that was sent down as a reminder, as a guidance and a healing from the very forces of Panadaru. And this book that we will be reading today is The Truth and the Way. Anen misfa kawun, pa sawabu pa taruk, ze kawuna na zulala he amtkun. Mane maspatu masaa, ama hadea mumuda ma'un. Mane musafukun, unataru. Arjulaye nafashuku. Afukshane kawunku. Pasawabu pataruk. Pahadeamu padama. Nahun tau antkum. Lahe panen damal hu shafe. Nahun tau antkum. Lahitem nasoinu. Nahun tau antkum. Lahe ashakuma. Antkum ater muslafunu. Nahun ater mukarkum. Nahun salud nasakuma. Nahun salud nasakuma. Ansanun kahenataru. Ansanun muslafunun. Nahun ater muspatu. Anu atun atun amu. We are Sabians, and we return to ourselves from all our different cycles of Reye, from our good times and our bad times, and the risings and the settings. And before all that came into formation, we are Sabians. And Saukum, Nataru, Wumuntaru, and our Muntar, Baabaa Yaanun, in the personage, flesh and blood like us, Baabaa Yaanun, all right, known to us as His Excellency, Malachi York, Okran. And Tawakum to our Muslafu for supporting us this far, because we're here. And we made it this far. And Tawakum to us, Moisar, as we are doing our very best to transform back into the very forces of natural nature. All right. So I appreciate everybody doing their very best in our one collective body. Our scroll today is actual fact Qasas-huu, which means his story. All right. His story. So we're going to learn about him. All right. As opposed to us. All right. Let's clarify his story from our story. And here's the author of the scroll, known as Baabaa Yaanun, the master teacher. His Excellency Malachi York Okran. Kabina means born Tuesday, June 26, 1945 AD, in Ghana, Africa. Those are Baba's coordinates, as you see Baba tap in, all right, to the scroll of eyes, all right? So let's all open all of those glands inside of ourselves, all right, in the very scroll of eyes. All eyes are see, all right, what was sent down for us Sabians. All right, that's Baba tapping in to the very forces of natural nature. All right, and it also starts with the introduction to all 9 reasons to be a Sabian and not them. All right, so take time to read the introduction on your own, which is a scroll within itself. So let's get right into the scroll, and everybody can feel free to participate. All right. Qasas-huu, his story. 1. By the name of Rana, name of Paa Taraq, overseer, who came down upon the Matha earth, Baabaa Yaanun, or Yaanun, in order to lakun teach Wu-sabat to you all. I am a Nabab Reye Akak Patah, also called Atum Rey. I am not ashamed of Wu-sabat, because it is the way of Musbatu Sabians for their taklus salvation. That is, every one of them who accepted me and what I Nazula incarnated to lakun teach. 3. First, for Paa Nagar Nadu, the Negroids, then for all others. For in Wu-sabat is righteousness from Paa Nadaru, the overseers, as revealed in Paa Taraq, the way. The way is our most holy scripture, all right, which is a series of scrolls, all right, and getting back onto our natural way, our natural guidance. All right, so the way is our guidance series. 4, a righteousness that is by way of hakako hakakat, actual facts, from first to last, madatat, words. 5, just as it was sent down, the righteous will live by its madatat, words, most nafarmul, beautiful words. All right, so it's not just about studying the words and memorizing them. What is it about? It's about living by the words. All right, so that's why Baba's the reformer is supposed to be transforming us. As we know better, we do better. All right, and that's what it's doing to the DNA. All right, you get a spark, but you have to still walk through that door and follow through. The wrath of Nafarul, or Fatar, natural nature, is being revealed from Paha, heaven, against all the unrighteous who deny Wu-sabat, or turn back after they knew it was their true way of life and Hadab culture. All right, so natural nature is at work, because what are the words of Wu-sabat? Hakakal, hakakat, actual facts from the first to the last Madat words. All right. So this is guidance by way of actual facts. All right. Not faith, but facts. Not belief, but facts. All right. So when you know something, all right, it's no longer faith. You know, if I want this outcome, this is what I need to do to get there. All right. It's not just something that you pray for and it just falls in your lap. It's a way that you live. All right. And that's the outcome. All right. And your very life is a testimony in that type of way. All right. So there's so many ways that we've been able, that's why we say Tawakum for this divine love, because we have given an opportunity to heal ourselves. All right. Like, let's just say we were smoking before and we didn't know the power of the lungs. Once you get into your breath, all right, and the power of the lungs and what it's doing, it would be foolish, all right, to sabotage your health. All right. So you're bringing judgment upon yourself. All right. Living outside of the protections of natural nature, because natural nature gives you protections as long as you live in accordance to the rules of natural nature. All right. So those are the words of actual facts. So, all right. So 5, just as it was sent down, the righteous will live by its madatats, words, most nafarmul, beautiful words. The wrath of Fatar, or natural nature, is being revealed from Paha, heaven, against all the unrighteous who deny Wu-sabat, or turn back after they know it was their true way of life and Hadab culture. All right. Our culture is based on facts. All right. If you know the facts and you can still turn back away from it, then you're turning your back on the protections that comes with the culture. Because our culture is about sound, right, reason. All right. And there's a reason for everything that we do. All right. So once you go and you learn about the reason, you're now empowering yourself with the facts. All right. For example, why in our culture shouldn't we wear artificial ingredient clothing? All right. Like plastics, and why shouldn't we do that? Because it disturbs the microbiology and other things in the body. All right. So you use natural fibers for that reason. All right. Why don't we breathe through our mouth and our nose? Just because that's my culture, that's not a reason. We breathe through our nose for this reason. All right. Because it helps to warm the air. We don't wear this on our head just for vanity. It's not just there because it's pretty. All right. So it's about becoming more reasonable. All right. It's unreasonable just to do something just because you like it if it goes against nature, because you're doing something destructive if you're going against nature. All right. So you lose the protections. All right. So For example, if I just say, well, I like this part of the culture, but that part I don't like. I don't really understand it. Let me learn the facts behind it. Oh, now I get it. But you know what? I just like breathing through my mouth better because it's just cooler. You know, it's a cooler thing to do. You've turned your back on the culture in that way. All right. So 7, and turn to the ways of Jawedness. So they turn their back on the culture and turn to the ways of Jawedness, wickedness of Pa Mudamu, the Adamites, who suppress the hakakat, actual facts, for 6,000 years by their Jawedness, wickedness, and Sakem power to cast Hayayat spells taught to them by Pa Nefalu, the Nephilim. All right. Remember, we learned about what is their power of, what power were they given? The power of deception. All right. So they glamorized their disease. All right. The power of deception. All right. So by the appearances, all right, of how things appeared, not by the facts of what's behind it. All right. So you give up actual facts just for the illusions of things, which will elude you because now you're left holding the bag of what that lifestyle costs you. All right. 8, since what could have been known about Pa Nataru, the overseers, is plain to them because Pa Nataru, the overseers, have made it plain. Since their making by Pa Mukmahu, the Palladians, it has been plain to them that the visible qualities outweigh their invisible beliefs of the Tayaf, ghost, specter, and Ka'as, spirit, and Bashar, human flesh tissue. The eternal Sakam power and Kahan, divine, Fatar, natural nature, has been clearly seen, been made so that mortals, both man and mankind, are without excuse. All right. So the very forces of natural nature, Panadaru, all right, Fatar, or Nataru, all right, those very forces have made themselves evident physically. All right. So even if you are man or mankind, you would have seen, all right, what has been made so clear for everyone to see. So no one is with excuse, because what people have done with the facts, they just took them away. Let's just hide the facts. All right. And the thing I'm thinking about is somebody getting a nose job. You've been born with a nose that functions properly. You can breathe properly. So if you have like a wide, flat nose, but you got made fun of, all right? And in order to be accepted, you went, all right, and gave up something that had real value for it, for an illusion, all right? And now your breathing is so much harder, all right? Because you went and pinched your nose in, and then you got collapsed nostrils, all right? So that's an example of denying a fact right there, all right? So 11, those born Pa Nagad Nadu, the Negroids, and those made Pa Kakas Nadu, the Caucasoids. For the record, Anu had sons, and he had Sawatatu, daughters, on Ne'eber, all right? Ne'eber, all right? So remember, Bob already made the connection with Neberu and Eber and Hebrew, all right? So he had daughters, all right? Male and female, on the crafts of Neberu. Anu was also called An, the Most High. 13, Anu of the Anuna sent his Sawal son, Nud-Imud, down to a part of Makab Mata, the planet Earth. All right, Nud-Imud. All right. Nud-Imud was also called Inki, all right, or EA, because he was half reptilian and could Yafuk, breathe beneath the water. All right. So he was half whatever they were, on that craft, which we know Enlil is what do you call that? He doesn't have melanin. So Inky is at least half that and then half reptilian. He came and mixed in with the Sands or the people who was already here. All right. So now you know why they sent Inky, because Inky was somewhat acclimated to being on a water place. All right. So Nutty Mud was also called Inky. Ki meaning earth. All right. So that was just his title. Or and Ea because he was half reptilian and can Yafuk breathe beneath the deep. His title before Inky was Ea, abode of the water. All right. So now we know Ea means abode of the water. After his title, Ea was Inky. All right. So his title changed. All right. So it's like he got a promotion at work. So that's not his name. That's just his title. Rahul Bazamal.
Rahubat Zamaltat, right? So it went from being just one who lives in water or whose abode is water to one a master of the water at some point, right?
Well,
But
master.
go ahead.
Master of earth, not master of the water, because Ki was
Tour,
for earth.
tour. Well, which is the most water planet, but tour, you're correct.
Yeah.
But
So
before we
it's like
got too far away from the nose thing, I know you said it was to warm, but it also, the nose hairs also works as a filter for different particles that can come into the vessel. So
correct.
that, well,
Right. And they have us doing things like going and getting it waxed. Imagine that. You go and get your nose waxed. That's like taking your filter out. That's nature has designs for a reason. So it's before you start messing, going to a laboratory and you messing with chemicals, it'd be wise to study those chemicals first. So it's the same thing with it's irresponsible. All right. So you can still be within the guidelines of Natharu or natural nature to keep those protections. So that's a good point, Zamal. So when after the title, Ea was Inky, master of earth. So abode of the water became master of earth. So it's like he got a promotion. Like at my job, I might have started out at this. Now my title has changed. Now I'm doing this. All right. Or this is where my jurisdiction has shifted to here. All right. So he descended in his makab or mikbad craft. All right. You can see makab or mikbad craft as Rauk, a soul of Sakemmul, powerful Rawuk or Rawak, wind, and hovered above the wind. Dark then, 99,000 years ago. All right. So we see Rawuk. Rawuk deals with the soul, but the way that it deals with the soul is via the breath, not the emotional seat of the soul, which is the Ba. It's about the divine breath. So if you read the breath book, then you kind of know that he was doing some type of, it sounds like he's doing some type of projection. All right. Because the breath shows you how to do that. All right. And they're talking a lot about Rauk and wind. All right. And in the breath book, you acknowledge a lot. You acknowledge our Nadar, what's his name? Shawal, also known as Shu, and Gabab and Geb. You notice they come up a lot. All right. The wind and the earth. All right. So a lot of that is breath. All right. And just mastering your craft, which is your body, because we learn in our tone wavelength A that our bodies are also referred to as crafts. All right. So you can have artificial crafts, you can have biological crafts as well. All right. Because this craft is meant to move energy from one point to another. All right. And then you can tune up with your very body. All right. So that's what I'm seeing just from the other scrolls. So 17. He descended in his makbad craft as Rawuk, a soul of Sakemul, powerful Rawuk wind. All right. And I remember Sakem is what we call that prana or chi. All right. So that's what we're charging up. Let me breathe out. You're taking in that Sakem. All right. So the powerful Rawuk wind and hovered above the deep, dark then planet 99,000 years ago. 18, unable to see from the dark clouds, he signaled back up to Naberu to beam down a war laser illumination. And it was approved and done. And he was able to see the Mayayats, waters beneath the hovering craft. And he set out to refill the Matha planet and call that part of it Eridu, E for abode, Re for far away, and Du for built. All right. So that's why you see E. A was his title before, abode, and A is how they called water. All right. Abode of water. So abode, Re, far away, and built. Du is built. So Iridu. And then came 49 others who became known as Anunnaki. 24 were Igigi or Igigi, and 23 were Dinger. 49,000 years ago is two Dawarat cycles of 24,000 Shamutat years, or a jubilee of 50,000 Shamutat years. All right. So different cycles create different gateways. All right. That's what I'm seeing. So different cycles can open and close different gateways. So it seems like they were able to jump through some type of shift. All right. 22. Anu's other Sawal son was called Nimrod. Nur-Emner. Nu-Emner. Nu-Emner. All right. Nuimnir. Nu-Emner. His title in Lil of Master of the Sky above. He had offspring called Igigi, those who watch from above. 23. The offspring of Inki were called Dingar. 24. Once they came down to Iridu, they were all called Anunnaki. The 50 who came to Ki or Earth, Iridu, abode far away built. All right. So which side, doesn't matter which side they came down from. If they came from that side, all right, from the Ikiki or the Dingar, all right, they're still all called the Anunnaki. All right. 42,000 Shamutat years ago, they started to test and breed an Adapa, a cabin, Mukwan being, to be a Murbad slave who worked and bred with the Kawafu simians found here already. All right. So it sounds like they already had the monkeys working for them. All right. So they already took the monkeys. I guess they needed them to do more sophisticated work. All right. So 26. And he became Zakar because he could remember his past in full details. 6,000 years ago, they grafted a new being, Amudamu Adamites, both Ayashu, male, and Ashashu, females, in their own image to act like them, to rule all others of their making, the leaders of their creatures. 28. And they were allowed to procreate sexually and were watched over by Enlil's son, the Ikiki, or Enlil's sons by the Ikiki. All right. So the Ikiki is Enlil's side. because they were the watchers. All right. Who took a liking to all the sexual skills of the Sawatatu daughters of Adamites, the ones of Adam Sawal's son, Seth's son, Mushnashu Enosites. All right. So Seth coming after, so after a certain time, I guess their skills are getting better sexually. All right. So they're watching all that, and they like what they see. All right. So 29. The 2,000 Nefalu, the fallen ones, was on the Matah, earth, and decided what they would do. All right. So the 200 Nefalu, fallen ones, was on the Matah earth and decided what they would do. These were the Ikiki or the Igigi from Enlil, called also cherubim or Irium. Of the 200, there was appointed 20 leaders, and the titles of them were Shamael or Shamyaza, all right, same person, and Arakiba, Ramiel, Rakabiel, Zakiel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Daniel, Ezekiel, Azazel, Barakijiel, Asael, Satarel, Turel, Jamjael, Sariel, Amaros, Batarel, Ananel, Sapael. These are the 200 fallen Akiki leaders. All right. So there was the main leader, then there was 20 chiefs under him, or 20 leaders under him, and then each 20 had their own 10 under them. All right. So that's 200 men altogether. So these 20 led the 200 into an act that would cause them to be called Nefalu, fallen ones, cast down from the craft above to dwell on Matah earth with their own offspring called Kabaru, mighty ones, the demigods. And this was when Adam birthed Shayeth or Seth, who birthed Enshi or Enosh, who birthed Canaan, who birthed Malula or Mahaluel, who birthed Arid, or known as Jared, who birthed Enkim or Enoch. In Luke chapter 3, verses 37 to 38. All right. So this Enoch and Enosite was taken above and given records or pages of events that caused the falling of 200 Ikiki, the Igigi. 35. This is what came to pass. It happened after Munashu, the Enosites, had many sexual Sawatatu daughters, and they had Janah sex in open places as the Ikiki looked on as their watchers. 36. So, as what was later called Benu Ha Elohim, or the sons of the deities, Anunnaki or Anakim, watched the daughters of Munashu Enosites having all kinds of sexual acts with the male Enosites. 37. They became enamored by way of their skill sexually, as taught to Titi Hawa, while in the enclosed garden of pleasures from the red me Nawat's disc stone. All right. So Hawa was taught, all right, and then it continued. All right. So the Ikiki, started saying Hawa is taught in some other scrolls by Tahuti. All right. 38. So the Ikiki, started saying to each other, we should select for our own pleasures sexual partners as mates from the progeny of Mudamu Adamites and have offspring by way of them. In 1 Enoch chapter 7 verses 2, as our own Muslafu ancestors did with Hawa to birth Canaan or Cain, Saul, son of Nanar, son of Enlil and Ninlil. All right. They let their leader Shamael or Shamyaza gathered the 19 leaders and said, I fear that you all and those under you all will perhaps be unwilling to really take part in these acts of Ghasub, rape, upon the Adamite Sawatatu daughters of the tribe of the Enosites. And once I have performed my act, I will stand alone, and I alone will suffer for your grievous crime. All right. So the leader, the head leader, Shamyaza, is saying that, okay, when you guys go and do all those rapes, I'm going to be the one that's held accountable because I'm responsible for the business that's happening with this crew because I'm over you guys. All right. 42. Yet they all together let their Sawatats voices be heard, and they answered Samael, and this is what they said. We all swear and bind ourselves by mutual course that we will not change our intention, yet will execute our acts, the projected undertaking to take by force and Ghasub rape these humanoid Ashahu females for our own sexual pleasures. All right. The book of Enoch, chapter 6, it reads verses 1 to 8. This is what it reads. And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters, and the angels and children of heaven saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Shemjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to this deed, and I alone shall have to pay for the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear on oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. They all swear. Then swear they all together and bound themselves by mutual imprecation upon it. And they were all 200 who descended in these days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon because they all swore and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And these were their names of their leaders. Shamiyazaz, their leader, Arakiba, Ramel, Kokabel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Daniel, Ezekiel, Barakijel, Asiel, Armoros, Betrayal, Ananiel, Zachiel, Samsapiel, Sataril, Taril, Tomjil, Sariel. These are their chiefs of tens. All right. So the big leader said we shouldn't do this because I'm going to get in trouble. The smaller chiefs and all the men underneath them, they said, no, we're going to make this pact to do it together. We're going to do this thing. All right. So they all took oath and all bound themselves by mutual execrations, all 200 of us as one. All right. So they're saying, no, you're not going to get in trouble by yourself if you are, because we're making this vow that we did this together. All right. So they're going to all say we're going to do this thing as one. So they all took an oath and all bound themselves by mutual execrations, all 200 of us as one. So they entered their Mukbadat crafts, and Nazula descended upon Eridu in the days of Jared on Mount Hermon. Then they took Maratu, women of the Murnashu Enoshites, each of the 200 choosing 4 for themselves. All right. So let's do the math. That's 800 women. All right. Whom they committed all kinds of sexual acts with, when and how they wished. And Katula killed any male Inosite who tried to interfere. 46. They took and began to approach them and cohabited and taught them mukshaf, sorcery, and incantations. So they taught them sorcery and incantations and the arts of mats, magic, herbs, and things they should not have taught mortals. All right. So you can take many natural herbs to alter the state. All right. Like for example, an example of a herb that can do an alter state that they used a lot, especially doing like even the zombie powder, which is nothing more than the poisons from the blowfish, right? That they would take, and then they would check the pulse, and there would be no pulse, for example. All right. So having psychological or physiological effects, knowing about how to use the plants and herbs for those reasons. All right. So these extraterrestrials taught these Adamite women those type of things. They taught them also sorcery. All right. Which you learn that sorcery is just learning how to play with the illusion of things. All right. So just knowing how to use illusions in your favor. All right. And things that mortals should not have been taught. So, 47. And these female Munashu Inosites conceived and birthed Gaburu or Gabaru, mighty ones known as demigods, who were Ramu'u, giants up to 9 feet tall, half humanoid and half Igigi. Very strange was this new seed of Gaburu, all right, or Gabori. All right, you might even sometimes hear it as Jibbery or Jabori. All right. So like their Muldadu fathers, they were wicked and Nahis evil, and they were very carnivorous, wild and savage, killing and eating both Hawanu animals and mortals. They even ate their own offspring. All right. So it seems like they were still able to reproduce. They're eating their own reproduction. All right. And then in other stories, they even ate their parents. So they were cannibalistics and were called Satanites for adversaries. This was the nature, the fatar, the unnatural nature of this new Hajan. Hajan is known as hybrid. All right. So essentially, you'll see how they disrupted the ecosystem. All right. Because other animals fall out of order. All right. So 53. And Anu and Inki and Enlil and Ninhursag saw that the wickedness of these Kabaru was so great in the land, and that every imagination of the Fakarat thoughts of their Yababat hearts was only Nahas or Nahes, evil continually. And Genesis chapter 6 verses 5 reads, and God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. "55. They became Harif, sad, for what had been Ladud, born of their own Salah race and seeds." All right. That's where you read about how the Lord has saw that and repented him. All right. So he repented the creation or the outcome of these children. All right. Because now they even have to compete with these children for flesh too. Not that in the Adamites they also ate flesh, but these beings, they were more they were even more extreme. All right. So they used one of the Tamu 8 weapons that was placed under the planet under this planet, Rabu 4 under the Mata earth, and Rabu 4 under the Mayayat's waters, and placed them in hidden places around the Makab planet. 57, they decided to use one of the weapons from under the Maya water and cause a great flood to kill off this new breed in a certain part of the planet, only where they dwelled. Genesis chapter 7, verse 11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. Notes from the deep, all right? So when they're talking about the deep, Bible's paying your attention, talking about the waters of earth. 58, and they did just that. Yet Enki and his son Murdoch, or his sons, Murdoch and his sons, Nabu, did not agree and chose one Moisar family to protect. The Moisar family of one who was 2/3 Anunnaki and 1/3 mortal. He was called Sutra and later called Noah. All right, so Enki took an interest in Noah. All right, his Sumerian name, you'll see it as Zuistra. 59, he was from Enkim's Enoch's son, Mutashal, or Methuselah's son, Lamech, or Lamech. He, Noah, or Noach, or Zuistra, was born a shapeshifter and could transform as many of his reptilian Muslafu ancestors. He birthed 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Shem was the seed of Shamgaz or Shamzaza. And Cam birthed the Laen, the cursed son, his 4th generation son, Laban, who was born pale, Laban white as snow. Mubras leper, later called Canaan, father of the Mukanu Canaanite race of Laen, cursed lepers, or Caucasus Nadu Caucasoids, and Adam too. And from Noah's son Shem or Sem was born Elam and Ashar and Asphar and Arphaxad and Lud and Aram. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sons. The Shemites or Semites and Sem's sons. All right, Bible says Sons, and then he puts comma Suns. All right. And from Aram was born Uz and Hul and Gether and Mash. And so that's 4 sons from Aram. And then from Arphaxad was born Salah. All right, that's 1 son. And from Salah was born Eber, father of the Eberites, or the Mubaru Hebrews. And the Hebrews of Eber was born 2 leaders, Peleg and Joktan. And from Joktan was born Almodad and Shelef and Hazar Maveth and Jerah and Hadoram and Uzal and Dikla and Abal and Abimael and Sheba and Ophir and Havilah and Jobab. These are the Hebrews of the Joktanites. All right. So now when you're hearing the sons being born, the sons are often not just representing individuals, it's representing entire groups of people. So for example, when this family or this tribe is born, it branches out. All right. So it's like similarly, like you can have a child, and as long as the child lives under your roof, the child has to live by the way you do things. The child wants to do the things that the way that the child wants, the child can move out. All right. And then live life how they want to. All right. So every time that would become a new group. All right. But you see, they're still the same family. All right. Or there's changes along the way. So one condition or one state gives birth to another state of people, but it's the same family. All right. So these are the Shethites, the Semitic Hebrews of Eber, Mubaru, the Hebrews, and the son Cam or Ham of Noach birthed Cush, Mizraim, and Phut. And his fourth son was Laen, cursed with leprosy, Laban, milk white, later called Kaan or Cain or Canaan, lowlander. And Cush, black skin birthed Sheba, Havilah, Sapta, Rama, and Saptekcha. All right. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children. And Rama birthed Sheba and Dedan. And Cush also birthed 2/3 son Anunnaki. So Cush also birthed a 2/3 Anunnaki son, known as Nimrod or Nimrod, a Gabaru, a Gibor, who set out to Lakun teach and Banu build his own Barayat lands. All right. So Baba explained in some scrolls, it might seem a little complicated, that this side of the family of the Anunnaki, they had their own politics going on. They came down. Some of them were doing this stuff over here. And these children from that side, some of them were doing something else over here. All right. Which included also mixing in with us. All right. So they got into the Anunnaki, got into our genes, not just from the Adamites, but also from certain branches of the Anunnaki. And then also he explained that you see the Amalekites and the Inkiites at times come together as well. All right. So Nimrod, you already see he's mixed with all kinds of things. All right. And our Paa Taraq that talks about language, it talks about him going back to his African ancestors, all right, to get off of their radar of the Anunnaki. All right. So that's what we've been tasked to do, even to finish that job that Nimrod started. All right. So, because I know it could be, for even my mind, I'm just like, okay, now what's going on? Who's who? All right. So Cush birthed a 2/3 Anunnaki son, Nimrod, a Gabaru, a Gibor who set out to Rakun teach and Banu build his own Barayat's lands. All right. So his own, so he's breaking away from the Anunnaki. So every time you want to do things your own way, all right, you're no longer under, you can become a new tribe. All right, the Nimrites. All right, and he was taking them back. All right, so to build his own Barayat's lands. And Nimrod taught his followers the tongues of his father Cush, the Patan, unlike the tongues of the Enlil or the Enliites, used to Natuk speak in the heads of the Munashu Enosites to rule them and broadcast from the satellites Nibiru, the mother craft, to their star system as Akal mind control. All right. So he was taking them away from their crafts. All right. Because now we know that the people were mixing in with the Adamites, the people also mixing with the natural beings that were here. All kinds of things was going on. The Anunnaki didn't all necessarily agree. All right. So much politics. The genetics got in, they got affected by all this. So Nimrod, he knew about the mind control, so he was taking them off of their signal. All right. And how was he doing that? Through the language. So he was taking his followers back to the tongues of his fathers from Cush and the Patan. All right. Which is different from the Anunnaki's language. So 74. And when Nimrod taught his followers a tongue other than the signal sent down by Enliites who ruled the skies, later called Yahweh Elohim or Yah-El or Enlil, they lost control of the Akalat's minds and the Abat's hearts of Nimrod's new breed. Also, in another scroll that we read together, you know that Nimrod was also helping some of the Adamite seed too. So anybody who was getting on that frequency was being disconnected. All right. So this angered Enlilites. All right. So the Enlilites, those who agree with Enlil, those are the Enlilites. So then you have the Nimrodites, those who agree with Nimrod. You have the Inkyites, those who agree with Inki, for example. All right. So they each have their own agenda. All right. So Nimrod took his Qasas-huu people and moved eastward to set up his own broadcasting and receiving tower, a tall Takan obelisk, to which he learned from his father Cush in the land of to the west, Tamaray, so he could not speak. And Sagur here broadcast from Inki of the Inkyites, who were later called Jah or Yahweh, and El of the Elohim. All right, so we know Inki is also mixed. But a question that I have in my back pocket, all right, we know that Inki was part reptilian, that's why he came down. Well, what else was he part? All right, how mixed was he? And what did he look like? All right, those are questions. All right, but we know that he came and he mixed in with some Africans that were here. And he didn't necessarily agree. Yes, Zamal. Yes, Zamal.
Oh, can you hear me now, Rahubat?
Mm-hmm.
Is it established what exactly the Anunnaki bloodline is?
No, it's not.
Wow,
Because
wow.
in some scrolls you see them being referred to as Palladians, because you see Palladians called Anunnaki at times. Then you see pure Anunnaki, but then you see white skin Anunnaki as well. So pure of what? Then you see mixed Anunnaki, because they was already mixed before they even came here, because Inki was already mixed. So what's going on in that ship? I don't know. All those details I don't know. But we know that they're also interacting with the Palladians. You know that they're also interacting with the Draconians. All right. And they're picking up DNA and other things are going on. All right. So these are questions that we should be asking. All right. So let's continue.
Rahubat, can I be heard?
Yes, Zamal.
Yes. Aren't the Anunnaki shapeshifters as well?
It depends, because it said that the reptilian.
Yeah.
It says
Well,
that
okay.
yes.
Yeah. To my knowledge, they are shapeshifters, and they can shapeshift into, many different things.
Right. But it depends on the type, the breed of the Anunnaki, because there was some like Enki, for example, like this scroll just said that the reptilians are shapeshifters in the verse. Now Enki is part reptilian.
But to
So
be a shapeshifter is not a species per se, right? It just says I have the ability to look like or shapeshift into other
Exactly.
type of species. So I'm trying to
exactly,
get
but
to what they are.
what I'm saying is that also being mixed can make you a shapeshifter, because you can blend in this way and you could tap into that gene and pull that gene out. So that's a form of shape-shifting as well. So we need to ask, what do we mean by that? Do all of them shape-shift? Because there's been a lot said about the Anunnaki. So what I'm saying is all that could be correct, but there's a lot going on that ship, and they're counting different things, and they don't all have the same genetics, so to speak. So
Excuse me, I
yes,
have a question.
yes,
What,
Bob.
Rahubat family, what exactly do you mean by shape shift? Like over a period of time, over in the twinkling of an eye, over 4 hours, over a week? Or what do you really mean by
Exactly. That's the point. Because Baba also said women, the whole women are shapeshifters. Because based on our cycle, what's going on, we will shapeshift. Our hormones make us shapeshift. All right. So the energy we're projecting, the way we look, a lot of things about us. So when you say shape shifting, that's such a broad terminology. Like even when you're saying mixed beings are shapeshifters, that's why Baba said Beyonce is a shapeshifter, and you can see that when she wants to deal with the country people, she made herself a lot lighter, and she looks like is that Kim Kardashian? Is that Beyonce? When she wants to interface with let's say the urban, they call us urban, she made herself more bronze. Let me go in the sun. So there's so many ways to shapeshift, and there's so much going on in that craft. So that's a very vague terminology. So what I'm saying is that there's a lot of details that we don't have all the details. We have some of the story. So it's good. It's good that we're thinking about that. And that type of question, what do you mean by shapeshifting? Now we're getting more facts. All right. So, and it's good that we put these things in our pocket. And Baba said that he's also waiting to see what kind of questions we ask. All right. So Inky, because if they could all shape shift, why do they have to just send Inky? Why can't they just shape shift into what they need and send anybody? So it tells you that there's probably limits to what each species can do, and who's doing what. I don't know. What do they all look like? I don't know. We know that Inky and Enlil are brothers, and we know that Enlil is fair-skinned. All right. What does Inky look like? I don't know. Reptilian, what does that mean? Reptilian is such a broad term because you have all kinds of different reptiles. So those are a lot of things to consider. And it's great that we're thinking about that. I think that's the thing. That's the jewel right there. All right. So
Tawad?
yes.
No, I was saying thank you.
Oh yeah, I just said right back. Yeah. Yeah, Tower Hat for the points. I think everybody's points is something to think about, because as I'm reading these stories, I'm getting more details that I didn't know about before. And then it's making me say, well, then if that's the case, mixed to what? What kind of reptile? And where did they mix? And who did they encounter? I don't know. What's their original species? Where did they originate from? Because the Nibiru was just a big craft. Well, where did that craft originate? And when it's stopping, what's going on? I don't know. All right. So, yes, Zamal Patel. Your phone, for some reason, it's real, like interference. You could be heard, but you just sound like you're talking through some type of cloth or something. Okay, we'll do our best to listen. You could be heard. All right. And if anybody at any point can't be heard, I never read the chats when I'm reading. But if anybody can't be heard, just
Oh,
type
yeah.
in.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember what it was. Didn't Baba also say that? Can I be heard?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Didn't Baba also say that Anunnaki, it that that was an event? Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of things about Anunnaki, because those
Yeah,
who
I'm
came
saying
down.
what.
in the books,
Oh, now
like
you sound
in
so clear. You sound better. I don't know what you did.
okay, like in the book, um, what is it? It's right on the tip of my tongue. The book called The Proof. The Proof. He said that that the Anunnaki is the event. You know, those who Anu sent in 50s. You remember that?
I do remember that, but I
Yeah.
also seen him say Anunnaki in so many ways. So I'm like, that's a very vague term. Even saying come down, a lot of beings came down. Some part reptilian, some not part reptilian, some part Pleiadian. Because in the other scroll that we read, I don't remember the exact name of it. That the Pleiadians were also interchangeably being called Anunnaki too. You know, so it's a lot going on. And I'm like, Anunnaki,
Yeah,
what does that mean?
that's where I was trying to, you know, get to where he said that Anunnaki is an event. Okay. So
Right.
being that Anunnaki is an event, then you know it doesn't they don't have to be a particular race or species, you know, because when they come down in 50s, they could be, you know, various, you know, different species. You follow what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Right.
Brother, do you
Not
mean?
they don't have to be, but when you're going with the doctrine and you're saying that you're trying to make a distinction between half this and half that, the that still is relevant. If you know the this, like you're saying, or we say, okay, his mother was id, and then we label her a reptilian, and then in the older schools it was just said that the other half was Anunnaki, but it never was stipulated or specified if that was a, because like you're saying now, that's an event, yet it still leaves blank what his actual other half was, if it wasn't the half
Yeah.
that was reptilian by way of his mother. It still leaves that blank. So I
Yeah.
agree that all of, go ahead, Zamonte, Alan.
Yeah. It's like saying that you're half reptilian and half an event, because it say he's half Anunnaki and half reptilian. So what I'm saying is that you'll see Anunnaki referred to in various ways. So that's why I'm like, all these points, like, to realize, to know enough that we don't have enough information. That's all I'm saying. To know enough about it to say we need more information, on everybody's part. Because how long was this event going on? And what was happening during this event? And what species were, and it's like Enlil was full he was pure what? So
Right, right.
all these points are very important. And a lot of times when you get the information, you realize, like, wow, my brain is blown. And it's like Baba is doing a great job of showing how they have confined the people to this box. So Baba's blowing that box off. And then you realizing, well, this spaceship in Nibiru, isn't it bigger than planet Earth? And there's many politics going on planet Earth. You see, they don't even agree. They don't even have the same blood necessarily amongst them. And do some of them have Nagaru blood? Do some of them have Palladium blood?
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So yeah. So I just think that it's a great point of realizing, like, wow, we have to be scientists and learn how to stop accepting vague things. Learn how to critically think and start asking better questions. All right. And it's like, wow, So what does that mean? You know, Baba could see actually they're waking up, they're thinking again. So let's continue because maybe some of these answers are in this
Yeah,
scroll.
just one more thing before you continue. Uh,
Yes.
he also said that there were many Nibiru's. Remember that?
Yeah, because we know that Nibiru just means a craft of something of crossing, because he took it back to Eber. So
Exactly.
you can have different crafts called Nibirus, and there were different Anus, because Anu just meant the Most High. So which Anu are you talking about? Which agenda? So it just
Well,
kind of
I
goes
think
to,
he also said about the Anu's only one personified. There was like 9 different ones, and only one, the one that we know that he showed a picture of, is the only one that personified.
he also says 16
16.
at another
Okay.
time. So what I'm
All right.
saying is that you have so many different. First off, we're playing with the language of English. And you could see how, well, when you use a word in this context, this is what you're saying. When you change the context of how you're using that word, all right? Like, for example, you could say staff. So there was only one staff, talking about a stick. But then you could have so many staff. There was 1,500 staff members. And what I'm saying is that if we don't specify what do we mean by that, what does Anu mean? All right?
It's just like
What
another word for president, right? Like
exactly.
so.
Yeah, the Most
So
High. Hmm.
so yeah, so it's like if there's many crafts, you're gonna have an anu of each craft because somebody has to sit in that seat for some type of organization of okay, this is the person we defer to. All right. So what I'm saying is that not taking for granted a story that you don't have all the facts about. Now, I'm not going to say anybody's wrong. I'm just going to say you can't definitively say something until you have the facts. So we just have to say, I need more information. All right. At this time, we need more information. And that's the
Yeah,
only thing we could conclude definitively.
yeah. Well, you know, that's why it's so important, just to walk with the master. Don't
Right,
walk in
right,
front of him, and don't, lag
right,
behind. Walk with him.
right.
And have patience. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the test.
Right,
That's our test, that we
right,
must have patience.
right. And untangling in the, like, we've been so tangled up, and it's like you have to unsort something. And you see so many ways that the language itself is very vague. Tricknology is in the spells and the spelling.
Yeah,
So
that's why it's so important that we remember our own language.
right, right, right. So let's continue reading. Let's
Well,
continue
wait,
reading
well, wait.
because we have so much to cover and so much to untangle as we see. So 77, we're on page 7 in verse 77. So Nimrod's people, let's go back. So Nimrod was removing the people off of the radar of the Anunnaki and putting them uh, in line with the people of Napata, right? So now the Anunnaki had a hard time broadcasting, all right, mind control. So this angered Enlil, or the Enlilites, all right, those under the school of Enlil, above. 76. So Nimrod took his Qasas-huu people and moved eastward to set up his own broadcasting and receiving tower, a tall Takan obelisk, which he learned from his father Cush and the land west Tamaray, so he could not speak to, and Sakur here broadcast from Inki of the Inkites, who later was called Yah or Yahweh or El or Elohim. 77. So Nimrod people, they babbled the Enlihites in the land of Babel and Erech and Akkad and Calneh, or in the land of Shinar, later called Maria or Mesopotamia. Maria or Mesopotamia. And Asar separated himself and built his own lands, Nineveh and Rehoboth and Calais and Rezin between Nineveh and Calais. And Mizraim returned westward and took a wife of Tamaray and birthed Ludim and Anamim and Lahabin and Naphtuhim and Path-Rusim and Qasas-huu, who returned eastward to become Philistine and Kaphtorim. And Noah, son of Joseph, birthed Gomer and Magog and Madai and Javan and Tubal and Mesheth and Tiras, all moved westward. All right. So you see how the people are coming together and then breaking apart and moving about. All right. All doing their own thing. And then Noah, Gomer birthed Ashkenaz and Riphath and Togarmah. All right. So now you can keep in mind how some of the Inkiites, they had their thing going on. The Enliites, they had their thing going on. At times you see them come together again. All right. On earth. At times you see them break apart again. All right. All this is producing different kinds of people. All right. And then north, Gomer birthed Ashkenaz and Riphath and Togarmah. The sons of Javan moved far east, and Javan birthed Elisha and Tarshish and Kittim and Dodamin. All right. All this can go nicely, but let's set the record straight. It's a good book to read with what's going on this page. And remembering the lion cursed seed of Canaan's fourth son Ham, son of Noach or Noah, this Canaan or Canaan, Laban birthed Sidon and Heth and Jubas and Amos and Girgas and Hiv and Ark and Arvad and Zimar and Hamath. These are the Lain curse, Mubrasu lepers, or the Mukanu Canaanites, many Sha'abu tribes who mixed and spread their Marat disease of leprosy with many other Sha'abu tribes, rolled over and the lands were given dominion to rule. Ghazub, rape, still kill for their overlord of Makma, Sabat, Najam, Pleiades star system. All right. So we were talking about the Anunnaki. You'll see all of a sudden we're talking about Pleiades. All right. So they were still killed for their overlords of Sabat, Najam, Pleiades star system, who came to Makab, Matah, planet Earth by way of Aldebaran in Orion. And they called Maptah heaven above, where their Gadad God dwelt, where their Gadad God dwells, who is Anu, Elion El, or his sons Elohim, and their sons Malachim. These are their overlords or lords or gods. And the seed chosen on Makab Matah planet Earth are those of Shamael or Shamyaza, the Shemites, the Semitics, and Shem. Shem, Sawal, son of Noah, birthed Arphaxad, who birthed Salah, who birthed Eber, who birthed Peleg, who birthed Ru, who birthed Serug, who birthed Nohar or Nahor, who birthed Terhu, who was later called Terah. And this Terhu, the Sumerian, the seed of Shamyaza, birthed Ibrahim, Nanuna, named after Nibiru, the mothercraft, Ibrahim, later called Abram, later called Abraham, later called Abraham. All right. So now we see Ebu again linked to Nibiru. All right. Eber, Baba also said, was linked to Nibiru. Hebrew linked to Nibiru. All right. The one who visited by Anunnaki, who sat, talked, and ate Nasad flesh with him, Enlil's son Nanar, and Nin-Urta, and Enki's son, who betrayed him, is Nergal, also known as Nergal. In Genesis chapter 18, verses 1 through 8, reads, And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day, and he lifted his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself towards the ground, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on. For therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, So do, as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal kneaded, and make cakes upon the hearth. And Abraham ran unto the herd, and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and hastened to dress it. And he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them, and stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. All right. So now when you dress an animal, that doesn't mean cook an animal. It just means season and prepare it. So it just seemed like he quickly cut up this animal, all right, and then set it before them to eat. So they ate raw meat, all right. And he hastened to go and to Sarah and to make some bread real quick, all right. And this Abraham made a deal with them, as his Hamatat's wife Sarah was half humanoid and half Anunnaki, and she could not give birth by way of him. All right, so now we learn about Sarah, who was really his sister, but apparently not his full sister. So they probably had the same father or something. Well, maybe the same, I don't know. So that was his half sister. All right. So she was having a hard time giving birth by way of him. So the visitor adjusted her Yakasat genes and changed her Ranan to Sarah. All right. So it's Sarah with an I, and then they took the I off and put an H. So they changed the name to Sarah so she can give birth a son, Isaac, with both genes in his Yakasat genes. All right, so now Isaac sounds like he's a 3-parent birth at least. All right, and the son Isaac took a wife from the house of Abraham's own seed, Rebekah, and they birthed 2 sons, twins, one a human Murbat beast, as in Kidu, called Esau, and the other a weak, effeminate son, humanoid, called Jacob. In Genesis chapter 25, verses 25 to 28, and it reads, And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took a hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare him. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau, because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. All right. So Esau for such a shallow reason. He loved his son Esau because Esau was a good hunter and he liked to eat meat. So the venison, Esau, I guess, was good at catching the venison. That's what made him the favorite. But Rebecca loved Jacob. All right, so they each had their favorite. Enkidu was a Dabat's beast, mixing humanoid Qasas genes, Anunnaki Qasas genes, and imported giant apes from the chamber of south of Masa Orion, Maspat, Sirius. All right, so he was mixed with that Shaggy. He was part Shaggy. All right, those beings, Shaggy. All right, so he was mixed with a lot of things: humans, Anunnaki. All right, Anunnaki. What does that mean? The Anunnaki genes. So we see Anunnaki genes is not just being called an event here; it's being called the genetics. But what kind of genetics? All right, because we see when the Anunnaki had their own politics. All right, and then they imported apes from the south, the chamber of the south. All right, of Masa, Orion, and Maspat, Sirius. So the great simian apes transported to Earth for tests were 10 feet tall, covered in farah fur from head to toe. Hamem farah, black fur, Hamed farah, red fur, and Laben farah, white fur. And these were crossbred. And the genes appeared in Esau's gene seed. Esau, Shaggy, was covered in red fur all over. These half men, half ape, escaped and now hide beneath the macabre planet in caves, 10 feet tall ape men, a kind of man who chose to avoid other Hamad Nadu humanoids. All right, so now you see why Bigfoot, that legend comes from. All right, so according to the scroll, that these beings actually do exist. All right, they choose to hide out in caverns. All right, you might see them from time to time. All right, and this ape-man Esau with red fur, his Shakasu people became Edomites. Those with red fur and green ayah tui eyes lived on Mount Seir. All right, so I guess the full-blooded ones, they're hiding. The other ones are mixing up in people's genes. All right, as we see with Esau. All right. And this shaggy ape man, Esau of the Edomites, he Gasuba raped many women of other Shaabu tribes, not just his own. Mukanu, Canaanites, Mushamu, Israelites, and his own. All right. So he raped women in his own tribe, from his own family. All right. So his own genetics, but he's also getting into other genetics. All right. So that's how you see that genetic being spread, all right, through rape. And it says many women. All right. The Sawawu sons of Esau, he birthed is Eliphaz, Ruel, Eliphaz, birthed Tamaz and Omar, and Zepho, and Katam, and Kenaz, and Eliphaz. Also birthed Imalek, a father of the Amalekites or the Amalek. It's so funny because as I'm reading this story with the names, I'm like, wow, you got to be careful what you name the children. But it's so funny because as I'm reading the names, I know some people with the names and the other names. And I just know the dynamics, even how they relate to each other. And even their behaviors. I'm like, wow. All right, 99. It's like their lives are paralleling the politics. It's so funny as I'm seeing it playing out. Almost like that other name, which means, I forgot, Qatar. That name Qatar means to sacrifice to. And I could see the root word of the word kata. Somebody had the name. I could see a deviation of it. And they did many sacrifices. All right, 99. And the son Raul, the Mushamu Israelites, wife, the Israelite wife Bashameth was Nahath or Zerah or Shama Hasmuni. Let me read that. And the son Ruel, the Mushamu Israelite wife Bashameth was Nahath and Zerah and Shama and Misa. And the Edomites of Esau and many Maratu women were many Shaabu tribes who spread and mixed. And the sons of Isaac and Rebekah's son Jacob, as also many by 4 wives, Jacob birthed Reuben and Simeon and Levi and Judah and Issachar and Zebulun and Dan and Naphtali and Gad and Sher and Joseph and Benjamin and one daughter named Dinah. Those were Jacob's Mukradu children, the Mushashu, the Israelites. All right. Even though he was twin brothers with his brother Esau, they were fraternal twins. They weren't identical twins, and their genetics varied. And then you have the interference then you find out the mother, Sarah, she's a hybrid herself because she's half humanoid and half Anunnaki. So she already has different things in her genes. And then she was barren, or she was having a hard time. Either she was barren or her genetics were not a good match for Abraham. So they had to adjust it. And then you see the Anunnaki interference, all right, with the genes. So it's a lot going on with these children, with Esau and Jacob. All right. And then further politics, right? So they too talking about Jacob. Now we talked about Esau, now we're talking about Jacob. So 102, they too also mixed and bred with the lion cursed seed of Canaan and the seeds of Edom and the seeds of Moab and the seeds of Ammon, much mixing and breeding of the seed of the Mudamu Adamites, Kananu Canites, Mushayathu, Sethites, Enosites, Sawawu, sons of Geborim, and the Nephilim, who came down to Makab Matah, planet Earth, as Anakim or Anunnaki, Anagi, also known as Anaki. And remember this, Abraham also was given by Sarah a wife from the west, Tamaray, named Hagar, before Sarah was operated on to open her Raham womb to give birth or to birth a son by Abraham. 104, Sarah gave him Hagar, the Nagadnadu, Negroid, Mukmatu Nagadnadu, the Egyptian Negroid seed, that he may have a son with the divine black seed, in Genesis chapter 16, verses 1 through 4. Now Sarah, Abraham's wife, bore him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said unto Abram, Behold, now the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain a children by her. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah. And Sarah, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abraham had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abraham to be his wife. And he went in unto her Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. All right. So this is a rape. All right. And it's a very selfish, cruel thing that they're doing. Because Hagar is saying, I can't have children, but I got this woman over there. So go have sex with her so I could take her children as my own. All right. Nowhere did they say, you know what? Let's go talk with let's go see if Hagar's all right with that. All right. So now Hagar, not only was she raped, then she's pregnant. All right. And now she's really upset with Sarah. All right. So Hagar birthed a son by Abraham and named him Ishmael. Genesis chapter 16, verses 15 reads, and Hagar bare Abram a son, and Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bare Ishmael. Ishmael birthed Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Abiel, and Mibsan, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, and Hadar, and Tema, and Jetur, and Naphish, and Kedama, and he birthed one daughter, Bashemath, by a Kamem Nagad Nadu, a black Negroid, Hamatat's wife chosen by his mother. In Genesis chapter 21, verses 21, and he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. All right. So now she gives birth to this mixed seed. But who knows what's in his genetics, all right, of the rapists. All right. And then you have now the son, all right, that's gonna go because she was like, I want you to be part of my people. All right. But you're still creating degrees of some type of mixture. So you're seeing how more things are getting into the genetics. The sons of Ishmael, who were mixed seed of Sumerian, Ibrahim or Abraham, and his Negroid consort Hagar. This is why they are called Murabu or Arabs. The one who is mixed or mingled is what the title Arab means. Arab means mingle. All right. So Arabs is mingled seed. And these also mixed with Laen, cursed seed of Canaan and Anunnaki. All right, so you got all kind of mixing, all mixed with all kinds of things. Yet from each of the Sha'abu tribes, we chose one to keep the Yakasat genes pure and clean. From the Edomites by way of Mahala, the Mushamu, Ishmaelites' wife, also called Bashemath, by Renan name, for they all spoke Semitic tongue of Sham, of Sumerian dialects of Enlil. So the Edomites, we chose one son to remain pure genetic, Amalek, and the Qasas-huu Israelites, we chose one son to remain pure genetic, Kedar. From Japheth, we chose to remain Tahara pure. Minion. These were the Nagad Nadu, Negroid Sha'abu tribes. Of each, some were Qasuba raped and mixed, yet most remained pure. Kamem, Kashar, black skin, Wabar, hair of wool. All right, you see that today. All right, in East Africa, not everybody has woolly hair anymore. All right, the features change, the spirituality changed, the spirit force changed. All right. Even the fuzzy wuzzies, now you know about more about the fuzzy wuzzies. Those were the mixed ones going back home, why their hair was so big. All right. And then they had hair in their bodies, and they had a more warlike nature. All right. So when you read, let's set the record straight. We're reading this. All right. And we returning home. All right. That's why from the west onto the east. That's our journey as a people, what has happened to us. That's why we're constantly reminded about who we are, not what we became after all these politics and rapes and this and that. All right. That's why there's no Right now, most of us are not truly 9 either. We're somewhere in the middle. All right. As it says in other scrolls, because of what has happened. But this is where we go to our saving forces, our 9 ether forces, to help untangle our story. All right, so let's continue. 111. These were the seeds of Mudamu Adamites and those who mixed their Laen cursed seed with the world over. And these are not your seed, yet many have mixed by Qasub rape with your seed. Their Misfahat's books are not your Misfahat's books. Their Lahajats languages are not your tongue. Their Za'amat's religions not yours. Their deities not yours. Their Harabats cultures not yours. Their Maratats diseases not yours. Their Nahasats evils and Jawadness wickedness not yours. And they are not you. All right. So, despite what has been done to you, if you can get back to who you are and not what you became, you can get back to the forces of natural nature. Those are not for you. All right. They affect you, but they're not you. All right. So, 114. Their last of their seed, Mudamu Adamites, Munashu Enosites, were given 6,000 years to rule their own. All right, that's the last of their own seed. All right, so this sounds like it's been going on for longer than 6,000, but that's the last of them. All right, and the Wakutat times of their Yahweh Elohim was each 1,000 to 1. So it makes 1 year 1,000, or 1 day 1,000. So 6 days is 6,000 years, and 6,000 years is 42,000 years. All right. Hold on. I'm doing the math. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42. All right. So that'd be 6,000 is 42 years and 7 days. All right. Because when you times 6 times 7, or 6,000 times 7 days, that's where you get 42,000 years. Right. And 7 days is 49,000 years. All right, because a day, if you say that's 7 days, all right, 7 times 7 is 49. So you have in different cycles. You have a 42,000 cycle of something. We're measuring different things. We're measuring different events. 7 days, 49,000 and 50,000 years, or 1 Jubilee. All right. So we have many cycles overlapping. All right. And they're measuring something, all right, in various states. So Psalms chapter 90 verses 4 reads, "For 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday, when is the past, and as a watch in the night." In 2 Peter chapter 3 verses 8, but beloved, all right. So 1,000 years is Bible just showing how they measure time. So let's go back to Psalms 90 verses 4. 1,000 years in thy sight is but as yesterday. All right. So 1,000 years, only 1 day passed in thy sight. So however this being is measuring time. All right. When it is past as a watch in the night. And 2 Peter chapter 3 verses 8, but beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that 1 day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as 1 day. All right, that's all King James Version. And finally, you got the Quran, which reads, Quran chapter 22 verses 47, and they urge you to hasten the punishment, but Allah will never fail in his promise. And indeed, a day with your Lord is like 1,000 years of those which you count. All right. So if you go to any planet, for example, how we tell time on this planet is based on our relationship and movement and distance and rotations and all that. All right. So time is told through a relationship from one thing to another. That's pretty much the measurement of time, to relate, and how it relates. That's how you would just be measuring time. So if you change your shape or you change your size, you change your rotations, and your relationship as distance, you're going to be measuring time differently. All right. So like a day on Jupiter is going to be very different than a day on Earth, because it takes 24 hours for our rotation, but on another place it could take a lot longer or even faster. All right. And then what are they relating to? Are we relating to our sun right here, or are we basing our time on a distant sun? All right. So these are all ways that it breaks the spell, that you're having different type of beings with different relationships in their own solar system, and also in how they relate to our solar system. All right. Because why would God need to tell time when God creates everything? All right. Unless he's from another star system. All right. So 117. So they move in Dawarat cycles of Wakut's time. They have changed as the planet changes. Shakal's shape from 25,000 to 24,000 years. All right. At times the earth expands too. Times it contracts, like any living entity. Like breath, breathing. We know that the earth breathes itself. All right. So that's why time shifts as well through the expansions. All right. So the Rawat cycles of 6,000 year Dawarat cycles. 119. And this is the last 6,000 Shamutat years of the second 24,000 Shamut year Dawar cycle, and ends in 2000 AD from 400 BC on to the last 1,000 Shamutat years, or the final one day, or the 7th day, or the 7th day of the 700 years. All right. They are here on Matah planet Earth after their 6,000 year dominion ends. All right. So they created on 6 days, they rested on a day 7. All right. That's supposed to be a holy day. All right. So over here you have 6,000 year dominion. Then you have the 1,000 years. All right. So they were here on Matah Earth after 6,000 year dominion ends. All right. That's why we have 7,000 years. All right. So their dominion ends. So now in the middle, you have the changing of the guard. That's how I would say the rust, the staff. All right. So they are here on Matah planet Earth after 6,000 year dominion ends. And the spell of Kingu cast upon others will fade away, and great awakening by way of Wu-sabat, Misbatia Sabayic. All right. That's the language itself. As Muspatu, Jawef Maspatia, Sabians in Sabatia. All right. So the language, the rules of it, MA is a place, MI is a thing, MU is a person, place, and thing. All right. So as you see, Wu-sabat, all right, starting to manifest as person, places, and things. All right. The people, all right, in Muspat and Muspatia. All right. So how we're living, our very surroundings. Mispatia, speaking Mispatia. All right. And the awakening to the genetics. And others seeing it, because that awakens their genetics. Reminds me of this one Asian guy. He has his own, like he just writes different things called The Love Life of an Asian. And he has said that what had woken his genetics up, or his relationship, or his pride in himself, once he went into Afropunk. Because before then, this Asian guy, his standard of beauty was Caucasians for the longest time. That was just the standard on the planet. But then he went to Afropunk, he said, and then he saw Nagad Nadu. He saw black people with their own natural hair. He just saw them all different ways. And he thought that for the first time, he was admiring something that wasn't white. And when he saw black people living in their own image, he said that it was like it gave him permission. Like, it didn't make him want to be black per se, but it made him proud. He was proud for the first time to be Asian, because what it did to him is that it made him feel like, wow, it made him consider that the standard of beauty isn't whiteness. So when he looked at it for the first time, he saw beauty that by no means, it was no white standard in his eyes. It's like it gave him permission to like, that means that Asian can be beautiful too. That's what it did to his brain. All right. So let's read that. And the spell of king you cast upon others will fade away, and a great awakening by way of Wu-sabat, Misbatia, Sabayic as Musbatu, Jaweth, Musbatia, Sabians in Sabaya, or Sabatia. 122. And now the wrath of the galactic brothers is being revealed by way of Fatah, natural nature, and Takas, weather, and Rakut's time of change and healing from above and beneath, against all Mudamu Adamites and those who live in the Shabbat image of this kind of man, a man, Rajal, man, and Jawedness, wickedness of their minds and hearts, and those who suppress the Sawab truth by their 6,000 years of Jawedness, wickedness, and Katabat, lies. All right. So you have all types of different microbes coming inside of our atmosphere because it's just time. As Baba said, that COVID itself is actually, he said K and C, B and V is interchangeable. All right. So you can say COVID or COVID. All right. COVID. All right. So you see these coming down, that they're actually extraterrestrial entities. And then also I was learning for like, sometimes I take different biological things for the work I do. Beauty, you'd be surprised. All right. And as the ice caps are melting in Antarctica, there's microbials that have been dormant and not exposed to the general population for centuries or for thousands of years. And now those ice caps are melting, and it's releasing microbials that's starting to reanimate and reawaken. All right. So it's like, in order for you to, that's where some of the healing is coming from too, but that's where also some of the punishment is coming from, so to speak, or the judgment. Because in order for those microbials, for you to adjust to it, because it's going to shift the genetics of everyone on the planet, whether it's shifting you to a certain consciousness or it's shifting you out of existence. And it's like, you're going to need ancient genetics for these ancient microbials. All right. Because it's time to shift. All right. And that's why natural nature is efficacious. And it's our responsibility to respond according to the scroll neuroscience of Wu-sabat. All right. Responsibility, or the ability to respond. And if you have it in your genetics, your ability to respond, that's where the healing comes to. You have some beings at the end of their genetic line. They're at the end of the genetic line, so the line can't shift anymore. So there's no ability to respond. So it gets eradicated. So you have different things coming from inside the earth. All right, not just from the ice. The ice is just an example because I actually had to study that. But the ice caps melting and what's coming out of them, what's being released, what's being spewed out. That's why Baba has said, like, no more flip-flops. Because I used to wear flip-flops. Then he said, no more flip-flops. Because he said right now that there's microbials coming out of the earth that is spitting up right from the ground. All right. And for us somewhere in the middle, I mean, there's a certain compassion. It's not like, oh, you got Adamite genetics, see ya. We're getting kind of ways that we can kind of like slowly transform ourselves back because this healing that's needed, you know, because we have been living in under their image and doing what they do and mixing with them. So we need enough of our genetics activated in time, all right, to weather these changes that's coming. All right, and that's here. It's here already. Not coming, it's already here. But more is going to come. All right, so let's read this again. And now the wrath of the galactic brothers is being revealed by way of Fatah, natural nature, and Takas, weather, and the Waqut, time of change, and healing from above and beneath against all Mudamu Adamites and those who live in the Shabbat image of his kind of man, a made Rajal, man, and Jawedness, wickedness of their minds and hearts, and those who suppress the Sawab truth by their 6,000 years of Jawedness, wickedness, and Katabat, lies. For although the Mudamu Adamites and the Salal race knew the Sawab truth, they neither taught nor preached it. All right, so they hide the facts. And for the longest time, they made themselves the standard. All right, they put themselves as the superior. Now, even more that the facts are coming out about how race really works. Now, all of a sudden, they're like, well, race doesn't matter. All right. In actuality, genetics does matter. Race does matter. So again, hiding the facts because like it's not in our favor. Let's go destroy those temples. Let's destroy those works. Let's just have people, well, we all bleed red. Dogs bleed red too, and they're warm-blooded too. Is dog blood and human blood the same? A dog, when you cut it, it's going to be red. All right. So they don't teach. They teach you to what? Ignore. All right. Because they had a chance to be reformed as well. It might not, when you getting punched in the jeans, you know, I realized Baba said you got to punch him in the jeans. And I was like, oh, wow, Baba's talking about us too. Because a lot of times when we're reading the scrolls, you don't always see things about yourself that you may like. So you're like, oh, I have to make some changes. All right. A lot of us, we avoid the changes. We just take the parts we like and the parts that punch us in the jeans. Instead of reforming ourselves, we dismiss it. All right. So that's where the healing is coming. All right. There's things that you was already doing right. And there's things you needed to work on. All right. And that's called reforming. So Baba's the reformer. So there's no need to have any hang-ups about being reformed. So 124. Yet their thinking became futile and their foolish Ayabab hearts were lion cursed. They lost their very Bahu souls. All right. So they're not the only ones who lost their souls. Many of us are losing our souls too. You got people starting their platform because when you've been told that you were nobody for the longest and now you feel smart and you like to sit on a platform and be important. And it's like, look at me syndrome. That's a disease. All right. Rather than empowering others, you're empowering your need to be seen. All right. And how people take their limited amount of little English and go and say, Wu-sabat means to sabotage. All right. And they didn't even take time to read the scrolls. And then they say, why? Because it's disempowering all the games that's being played. All right. And the games that's being played as we are feeding the forces that The forces, they feed on your lust. All right. The anger feeds on your anger. All right. So as we line ourselves up, we cutting these forces off just by reforming ourselves. All right. Many of us don't want the reforming. We want the part that praise us. The part that says, look again at yourself. That's the part that says, nah, don't pay attention to that. And a lot of us, a lot of people who's, once you read these scrolls and then you notice all Baabaa students, some of them are straight up demons. All right. It's them Adamite genes or whatever genes. Because you see so much happen to us. We don't want the healing. We just want the praise. All right. So they lost their very Bahu souls. Joshua chapter 5 verses 1. All right. And it came to pass when all the kings of the Amorites, which were on the side of Jordan westward, and all the kings of the Canaanites, which were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of Jordan from before the children of Israel, until we were passed over, that their hearts melted, neither was the spirit in them anymore, because of the children of Israel. Look at that, because of the children of Israel. I thought that's their chosen people. So what, they disappeared? Right? In Matthew chapter 16, verses 26 reads, and for what is a man profited if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? All right. Now we know the importance of soul, solar, sun genes, right? Soul. All right. Them sun heat genes, which can be turned on and turned off. All right. And you got some straight up demons with melanin. All right, amongst us. All right. All live as other Hawanats animals and the bots beasts of the field by spirit and instinct only, blinded by their own white lights of Shawash chaos, the Nahes evil whiteness of their being, to survive at cost to others. All right. So it's not about surviving at a cost to others. It's about surviving in harmony of others. And that's why our symbol is Paut, as we're reminded of the all expanding. And as you find peace within yourself, that always was there. Now you see where everything plays its part. And you're no longer threatened, all right, by the way that one likes to cut their bread, because you see how it fits in the ecology of existence, all right? So to each its own is a very sacred thought, all right? So also, when you step back and you realize, you know what? Let me step back graciously because I'm not conducive. That's another thing, all right? But others, they, instead of reforming themselves, they want to reform everything else and corrupt everything. They will corrupt their ecology rather than perfect themselves. All right. So now you have all the true lights, as we learn about the God of light and fire. And they don't want to, the nature of light is to divide. That's why our Miptah takes us back to that internal, which is actually darkness. All right. And darkness, it allows you to accept all the all in all. All right. In many phases, in all the different growth cycles and parts. All right. So, although they claim to be Hakem wise, they are fools and exchange their pride and ego for that which is real about who and what they are. Mukradu, children of Satan. Balil means worthless. All right. So Belial which I hear some of us name. Baba, remember, he studies the language, right? But Lao means worthless. All right, so stop naming your children these Sumerian names. All right, they trade the immortal life for images made to look like mortal Rahaj man and Mutnanu reptilian, their makers. For this, they lost their Ba souls and were given over to shameful lust, greed, murders, lies, changed natural relationships for unnatural relationships. Their Ka'ah spirit is of sinful desires, and their Tasharat emotions placed with sexual impurity for degrading of their own katat, physical body, by lust, drugs, alcoholic drinks, disease, and disfiguring of their bodies, tattoos, and holes in their bodies, living by danger and games, destructive by fatar nature. This is their part, curse of self-hate. All right. And notice that those Anunnaki who came down, they were giving the Adamites poppy seeds, all right, to get them high. All right. So that's a testimony right there that they are of an unnatural nature themselves. Because the reason why people do all those extra, when you just study psychology and different things like that, authentic emotions, people are seeking to duplicate. So for example, you know, if you're really looking forward to see somebody and you really care about them, you might get a little butterfly in your stomach. All right. People who can't feel that type of feeling, the closest thing that feels like that is adrenaline. So like if you're going in an elevator or you're going somewhere high and it's like, oh, my stomach just fell, they're trying to duplicate the love that they don't actually feel, those divine emotions. They're cut off. So they get there by lust, drugs, alcohol, drinks. All right. Because those glands, because in actuality, when you're saying lust, drugs, alcohol, drinks, all right, you're talking about chemistry. You're talking about the glands. Something's wrong with the glands. All right. So they're not working. So now you need something a little extra to turn them back on. All right. And that's why for us Muspatia Sabians, we don't do drugs to get some spiritual alignment. Some people, they go to certain realms, all right, do these drugs that Baba's showing us how to do that at will, naturally, all right, in your own body, so you could turn those glands at will back on, and you're not playing Russian roulette with these outside intakes, all right. So they lost their Bahu souls and were given over to shameful lusts, greeds, murders, lies, and changed natural relationship for unnatural relationships. All right. So the very way they relate to nature, the way they relate to each other, and the way they relate to themselves, all right, is out of sync. Their Ka'ah spirit is of sinful desires, and their Tashurats emotions replaced with sexual impurity for degrading of their own katats, physical body, by lust, drugs, alcohol, drinks, disease, disfiguring of their bodies, tattoos, and holes in their bodies, living by danger and games, destructive, self-destructive by fatad nature. That is part of their curse of self-hate. All right. A being who truly loves himself doesn't do things like this. All right. This is a being that's looking like, I just want to feel something. All right. All right. Alternating their image from their fatal nature to fatal, unnatural images. All right. So some people, they get their ribs removed so they can reconfigure themselves. All right. Get your nose reshapen. All right. All these types of things that has takes you outside of the natural designs that you were given. All right. I'm just expressing myself. All right. This is not a natural being, or that's not conducive. All right. And that's gonna affect his vibration. All right. Pretty much he's erasing himself. All right. So Inky, we're on page 15. Inky sent down his son, Nu Muzi, to teach them. He mated with Inanna, or Ishtar, daughter of Nanar, and Ningal of Enliites. All right. So we see Ishtar is Nanar's daughter. And then remember, Nanar is the grandson of Enlil. So you see the Inkyites and the Enliites, they overlap. So Inky sent his son, Dumuzi, to teach them, and he made with Inanna, Ishtar, daughter of Nanar, and Ninja of Enlilites. Dumuzi and Inanna birthed a son, Tammuz. All right, so you have Enlil seed and Inky seed. All right, Tammuz is the result. All right. So Dumuzi and Inanna birthed a son, Tammuz. Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 14. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was towards the north, and behold, there sat a woman weeping for Tammuz, who was translated, or who was to translate and transform the stone tablets of Sumer into the scroll, or the scrolls for the Mudam or Adamites, called the Torah, and named after Abraham's father, Taraq. A letter they change from KH to H. So Taraq became Terra, became Torah. Or later the Bible, and then the Gospel, and then the Quran. All right, so Terra became Torah. All right. And Terra is from the Anunnaki. All right. So the history of their chosen Salah race from Adam to Muhammad as a way to civilize them, it became the Za'amat, religions of Abraham, Mosesism, Jesusism, and Mohammedism. The Mujwawu Jews call their book the Tanakh for Torah and Taraq for Terra. Over Wakut's time and change in tongues, the translations, most of the true story has been lost, and they were offered instead of Hakakat's actual facts. They were offered faith, Akadat's beliefs, hopes, wishes, and replaced their fate for faith. All right. So in time, their records, they started to mess with the records and remove the truth little by little. All right, and remove their truths. All right, because when you remove your history, all right, then you're playing with your fate because you don't know why. You're just kind of like floating with the wind. All right, when you are more self-aware, then you know where you come from. Then you can make a better. Then you know where you're going. All right, where you come from. Why? Why are you here? For what? What was going on? All right. So all part of their deal or covenant. Barak from bara. Food. Bara is food. All right. Covenant is barak. Made with jasad flesh, eating gods they worship. In Leviticus chapter 17, verses 7. Reads, and they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring. This shall be the statute forever unto them throughout their generations. In Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 17 reads, they sacrifice unto devils, not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. All right, so now it seems like more extraterrestrials are getting in on the action. All right, so they're not just making sacrifices to the God they agree to, they're making sacrifices to new gods, all right, or new extraterrestrials. So many different beings are coming into their story. And offer Qasas-huu damam, flesh and blood, too, as sacrifices. In Leviticus chapter 10, chapters 1 through 10. All right. So in Leviticus, all the chapters 1 through 10. To have many other races to worship and trust the unseen, the God deity, or Gadad, God, lords, by many Rananat's names and tongues. All right. So now you getting all these other races. All right. And there's so much, like with the Romans, the ones who roamed. They roamed around getting into the genetics of all others. All right. So now that they're all under the same jurisdiction, right, to these flesh gods. So tones to attract them to their bodies, or the inner sights, Anas or Al-Isan, as the Quran calls Adamites, will be barah, food for the gods, who are Muzyad Mutatalu extraterrestrials, who have been breeding and abducting humanoids for 6,000 years, and others even longer. All right. So you have this particular group being talked about that's taking humans for 6,000 years. You have some that's been doing it for even longer. All right. All types of beings overlapping sometimes their stories. So they spent billions of wealth to convert others to worship their own Gadad, God, or son of God in many Rananat's names, not related to their own true Fatah nature. All right, so they're aligning with someone else's nature, not their own. All the different races. All right, so you may have other races that may not necessarily be Adamites, but they might not necessarily be where Bob is taking us either. There's many different things going on. All right, in the scroll, the Akasha records, which eventually we'll read together. It's just, I think it's a better scroll to read on your own though. But the Akasha records, Baba had talked about when he and many beings went into the cave, and it was a big meeting, and Baba was there, and at the time he was very young, so he didn't know what was going on, and he had seen certain star systems. He had no idea what those were, and because it was none of his business. But then when he was called up for Yanun's task, that's when he was called up. So he didn't talk about what was none of his business in that scroll. All right. So it was star systems never seen before that he knew nothing about in that book. All right. So to each their own. So 138, they spend billions of wealth to convert others to worship their own Gadad, or son of God in many Rananat's names, not related to their own true Fatah nature. All right. You have Howard Staten Levy, or Anti-LaVey. All right. Pay attention to his name. All right. This is who we're going to, Anti-Levy. All right. So he was born on April 11th, 1930 AD, and he died in October 29th, 1997 AD. He's an American author and counterculture figure who founded the Church of Satan. In his early life, he developed an interest in the occult and gained local celebrity status in San Francisco as a dark, mysterious figure who rejected traditional Christian morality. In 1966 AD, on Walpurgis night, that is April 30th. That's a traditional night of rivalry in Northern Europe and Scandinavia. After changing his name to Anton Sandor LaVey, he founded the Church of Satan, calling himself its high priest. 3 years later, he published the Satanic Bible, in which he set down the teachings and rituals of his church. LaVey represented Satanism not as the practice of evil or as the worship of an actual antichrist, but as a kind of ethical egotism. According to LaVey, traditional religions were fundamentally hypocritical and dangerously inhibited the physical tendencies and emotional needs that were vital to human life. He claimed that his brand of Satanism was inspired by his having noticed as a teenager that the men he saw at church on Sunday praying to God for absolution were the same ones that he had seen at burlesque shows on Saturday night. LaVey's Satanism was a fact of aesthetic. The opposition between God and Satan represented for him the struggle between hypocrisy and repression on the one hand, and indulgence and liberation on the other hand. All right. So one of his famous quotes is "Do as thy will." All right, do as thy will. All right, which means do whatever you want. All right, it's all about indulgence. All right, indulge whatever you want to do. All right, self-serve, because Christianity is too repressive. Right, that was his whole thing. Now with Wu-sabat, you realize that do as thou willst. You're still at the mercy of the consequence. You have freedom of will, but not freedom of consequence. So Wu-sabat deals with the facts. Right? If it's not factual, just leave me alone. All right. What people would think of me and all that other stuff, that's opinion. Now the facts, if you give me this, oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, this is the event that I want. So if I want this outcome, then this is the wise thing to do. This is how this body part works. So this is the way I should be using it. All right. So do as thy will means like, well, if you want to bend it this way, just bend it this way. Now your arm's out the socket. All right. You just indulge. All right. So that's pretty much his philosophy. All right. And that's the Church of Satanism. Now you have Joseph Franklin Rutherford. All right. So we're learning about their different founders of their different sects of religion, their different brands. All right. So the funny thing is, as we talked about the different brands and the different families from the Israelites and the Ishmaelites, you see the different families of the Christianity. It's doing the same thing. So it's like he's part of the Christian family, but what ends up happening is that he breaks away. All right. But he couldn't exist without Christianity because he is a reaction to Christianity. All right. It's a response. All right. So that would be the Levites, All right. But it's still the same brand. All right. The same 5 principles. All right. The same spirit force, same family. Now you have Joseph Franklin Rutherford. He was born on November 8th, 1869, and he died on January 8th, 1942. Also known as Judge Rutherford, and was the second president of the Incorporated Watchtower Bible and the Tract Society of Pennsylvania. All right. So we're talking about the founder of the Jehovah's Witness. That's what he looks like. All right. Let's continue to learn about it. So he was the second president of the Incorporated Watchtower Bible and the Tract Society of Pennsylvania, and was the successor of Charles Taze Russell, who Charles Taze Russell lived from 1882 AD into 1916 AD. In the year of 1917 AD, he played a primary role in the organization. All right. So after he died in 1916, that's when Joseph became the successor in 1917. He played a primary role in the organization and doctoral development of the Jehovah's Witness, which emerged from the Bible student movement founded by Russell. Rutherford changed many organizational laws and doctrines which shaped the current beliefs and practices of Jehovah's Witness today. In 1918 AD, held a Millions campaign with the release of his book entitled Millions Now, Living Will Never Die. Although the book wasn't officially published until 1920 AD, it was a major catalyst in his future endeavors, and the Millions campaign was a pawn in history and was the inspiration for the Million Man March. All right, so you see all the connection, the Million Man March. You have the Millions campaign. All right, it was a major catalyst in future endeavors as the Millions campaign. All right, all from the book. All right, so Millions Now, Living Never Die. That's the name of the book. So that'd be a good book to read. All right, because it would let you know what's influencing these movements that came later, like the Million Man March. All right. So although the book wasn't officially published until 1920 AD, it was a major catalyst in future endeavors as the Millions campaign, which looked upon in history and was the inspiration for the Million Man March, hosted by Minister Louis Farrakhan. Rutherford further imposed a centralized administrative structure on the worldwide Bible student movement, which he later called a theocracy, requiring all adherents to distribute literature via door-to-door preaching and to provide regular reports on their preaching activity. All right, good way to spy too. All right, because you're making a report. He also instituted training programs for public speaking as part of their weekly meetings for worship. He established 1914 as the date of Christ's invisible return, asserted that Christ died on a tree rather than a cross, formulated the current witness concept of Armageddon as God's war on the wicked, and reinforced that the belief that the start of Christ's millennial reign was imminent. He condemned the observance of traditional celebrations such as Christmas and birthdays, and saluting of national flags, and singing the national anthems. He introduced the name Jehovah's Witness in 1931 and the term Kingdom's Hall for houses of worship in 1935. All right. And then here goes, you can look up the Wikipedia if you'd like to read more on Joseph Franklin. And then you have Joseph Smith. All right. So now we're going to go into the Mormon founder. So Joseph Smith was born on December 23rd, 1805 AD, and he died on June 27th, 1844 AD. He's the founder and first president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He and his 5 associates organized the church at Fayette, New York, on April 6, 1830 AD. He presided over the church until June 27, 1844 AD. All right. So he died until he died. All right. So that's his death date. He was over the church all the way until he died. When him and his brother were martyred by a mob, under his leadership, church membership grew from 6 to over 26,000. In 1823 AD, he started to receive a revelation while praying for forgiveness, reporting that an angel calling himself Moroni appeared in his bedroom and told him about a set of golden plates containing the record for ancient inhabitants of America. Smith found the plates buried in a stone box not far from his father's farm. 4 years later, the angel permitted him to remove the plates and instructed him to translate the characters engraved on their surface with the aid of special stones called interpreters. Smith insisted that he did not compose the Book of Mormon, but merely translated it under divine guidance. Completing the work in less than 90 days, he published it in March 1830 AD as a 588-page volume called the Book of Mormon. Joseph Smith harbored racist views, and his disdain for dark-skinned persons was incorporated as doctrine into the Mormon scriptures, as he allegedly translated. For example, many passages in the Book of Mormon speak of dark skin as a curse for sins, as opposed to white and as opposed to the white and the lightsome. All right, so white is the lightsome, and brown skin is cursed. All right, appearance of the religion. A passage in the book of Abraham, chapter 1, verses 26 to 27, that spoke of the Egyptian pharaohs as having Negro ancestry, thereby disqualifying them from God's priesthood. This was used by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to deny the Mormon priesthood and temple privileges to anyone with any amount of Negro ancestry. All right, so feel free to learn more about Joseph Smith, all right, from the Britannica.com, and then you can also go to www.mormonnewsroom.ug, all right, and the article on Joseph Smith. Now you have Ron Herbert, all right, that's the father of Scientology, all right, the one on the top, all right, let's learn about him. So Lafayette Ronald Hubert, aka Ron Hubert, was born March 13, 1911 AD, and he died on January 28, 1986 AD, and often referred to by his initials. All right, so you might see him referred to as LRH, as an American author and founder of the Church of Scientology. After establishing a career as a writer and becoming best known for his science fiction and fantasy stories, he developed a system called Dianetics, which was first expounded in book form in May 1950 AD. He subsequently developed his ideas into a wide-ranging set of doctrines and principles as part of the new religious movement that he called Scientology. His writings became the guided texts of the Church of Scientology, founded in 1954 AD, with the religious tradition and Scientology being based on two essential things: Herbert's individuality and texts written by him. All right, so the two essential things was his individuality and the text written by him. Herbert struggled to gain recognition of Scientology as a legitimate religion and was often at odds with tax authorities and the IRS. He lived many years on a yacht, and he remained in seclusion for the last 6 years of his life. Later on, the church dissemination of these materials led to Hubert being listed by Guinness Book of World Records as the most translated and published author in the world. Hubert also holds the Guinness World Record for the most audiobooks published for one author. In 2014, Hubert was cited by Smithsonian Magazine as one of the 100 most significant Americans of all time, as one of the 11 religious figures that list. And then you could look up more about it on bookogs.com All right, you look up Ron Hubbard, the Strato League organization, and the News Smithsonian Magazine. You look up the article about Ron Hubbard. All right. So now we're going to learn about Wallace Ford. All right. Also known as Wallace Fard. All right. Muhammad. Right. The founder of the Nation of Islam. All right. Doesn't look Nagato, does he? All right. And those are recessive genetics. It's so funny because I was seeing people Nation of Islam explain why they are following him. And they were saying, well, he had two Nagato parents that just gave him recessive genes. All right. But still, recessive genes would still be talking about the mentality of that being. All right. So Wu-sabat doesn't let us ignore the facts. All right. Or gaslight ourselves. But let's read about him. Wallace D. Ford, a.k.a. Wallace Fard Muhammad, was born February 26, 1877, and he died, well, it's unknown when he really died for sure. He was the founder of the Nation of Islam. He arrived in Detroit in 1930 A.D. with an obscure background and several aliases, and taught a distinctive form of Islam to members of the city's African-American population. Ford had an East Indian appearance, being half Arab, that's from his paternal side, and half European, that's his maternal side. He told followers he was born in the holy city of Mecca, and his light-skinned appearance, courtesy of his Russian Jewish mother, was preordained so that he could more easily mix with white people. This was also his explanation of why he never dressed as an Arab like all other Arabs in those days, but insisted he was always dressed in an American suit. He claimed to have attended Oxford and the University of California, and then to have begun training as a diplomat for the Kingdom of Hijaz, now part of Saudi Arabia. He was also known as being a seller of silk, incense, and perfume, and was described as a white Arab man, but remembered as being light-skinned black man by leaders of the Nation of Islam. After several disputes with local authorities, Fard was last seen in 1933 AD by Elijah Muhammad when Fard took off in an airplane from Detroit Airport. You will not find one photo of him and the messenger Elijah Muhammad together. Why is there not one book? Why is there not one when both took photos back then, even when arrested? All right. So there's photos, actual physical photos of Farad, including his mugshot. There's actual physical photos of Elijah Muhammad, including his mugshot. All right. But you never see them together. All right. So if you have time, you could read Baaba's scroll called Sheikh Dawood, where Baabaa really breaks down, all right, who this man really was. Nothing more than a con artist and another ploy for the deception of our people. All right. That just brought us back to their spirit forces. As you can see, all right, that was him. Right. So you can look up, if you want to read more about it besides the scroll I just said, you can also go on the internet and go to www.blackfacts.com. Fact Wallace Fard Muhammad. Then you have William Franklin Graham Jr., aka Billy Graham. He was born November 7th, 1918 AD, and he died on February 28th, 2018, an American evangelical Christian evangelical evangelist, ordained as a Southern Baptist minister, who rose to celebrity status in 1949 AD after preaching at a LA revival and guest starring on Stuart Hamblin's radio show. The publicity made Graham a superstar, and his 6 decades of television, Graham is principally known for hosting the annual Billy Graham Crusades, which began in 1947 AD. It began in 1947 AD and concluded in 2005 AD. Because of his crusades, Graham has preached the gospel to more people in person and through the radio and television than anyone in the history of Christianity, reaching an estimated 2.2 billion people in more than 185 countries, and has met with every U.S. president from Harry Truman to Barack Obama. Although throughout Christianity, many people still believe that the black race or Melanite people world over are a curse, Billy Graham and many of his family and colleagues appear in the Nelson Catalog of Coordination with Thomas Nelson publication of the King James Study Bible. On page 26, under commentary, chapter 9, verses 25, titled Cursed Be Canaan, it states, the Canaanites were white, and in no way is this to be interpreted as a curse on the black race. Much information such as this is not broadcasted world over simply to keep you under the spell of religion. Billy Graham retired in 2000 AD. All right, you can read more about him. So that's Billy Graham. All right, so he was translated world over, and he was making Christianity more appealing, all right, to people all over the world. As most forms of Christianity refer to black people being cursed, for him, he acknowledged that it was the other way around. All right. Then you have Edward Aleister Crowley, known as Aleister Crowley. All right, there he goes. So let's read about Aleister Crowley. He was born on October 12th, 1875 AD, and he died on December 1st, 1947 AD. An English occultist, pansexual, mystic, ceremonial magician, deviant, recreational drug experimenter, poet, and accomplished maintainer. He was also known as Frater Perdurabo and the Great Beast 666. All right. So he wore the title Frater Perdurabo. He also embraced the title the Great Beast 666. The founder of the religion philosophy of the Thelema, which enforced the idealistic rule of do as thou wilt. All right, where you also see what's the name of that guy in the beginning? Aleister Crowley. No, then you also see Anton LaVey. All right, Anton LaVey also was influenced by this guy too, by Aleister Crowley. All right, so he was known as the Frater Perdurabo and the Great Beast 666. He founded the religious philosophy of Thelema and enforced the idealistic rule of do what thou wilt. Do what thou wilt. The British press named him the wickedest man in the world. At the age of 25, he joined the clandestine organization, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and later was expelled because of his deviant and homosexual behavior. And although many of the organization members were homosexual, they felt the need to keep it hidden. So Crowley blatant promiscuity with men, women, prostitute, and rent boys became offensive. All right, because for him, he just did it freely. All right, he was pansexual, just anybody, men, women, prostitutes, children, whatever. All right. For a lot of them, they were also homosexual. They just didn't think that it should be open, that should be private, they felt, or kept secret. So from 1915 AD to 1919 AD, Crowley lived in the United States, publishing a fair amount of anti-British propaganda. And in 1920s, he moved to publishing a fair amount of anti-British propaganda. And in 1920, he moved to Sicily. Crowley hoped that his Kefalu huts, dubbed the Abai Dalim, all right, that's another language, would be the world center of study of occultism. All right, so that's his books. He was expelled from Sicily by Mussolini, whereupon Crowley's life took a turn for the worse. From Italy, Crowley went on to Tunis and Germany, where he met several continental occultists. In 1934 AD, he sued authoress Nina Hamnet for defamation and loss. All right, so it seemed like he was a problem. He had a problem everywhere he went. In 1935 AD, he was declared bankrupt and mostly lived from the monies from his religious followers. In 1940 AD, he joined many other scientists and engineers abroad in Philadelphia Experiment Project. Crowley's later years were overshadowed by poor health, drug addiction, and constant search for money. All right, so Crowley had his hand in the Philadelphia Experiment. All right, but he died in a very decrepit way. All right, and then you can read more about him on the HauntedAttractionOnline.com. All right. Then you have Albert Pike. There goes Albert Pike. Let's learn about Albert Pike. Albert Pike was born on December 29th, 1809 AD, and he died April 2nd, 1891 AD. Albert Pike was a lawyer who played a major role in the development of the early courts in Arkansas and played an active role in the state's politics prior to the Civil War. He also was a 33-degree Freemason who organized another order of Freemasonry called the New and Reformed Palladian Rites, and wrote the book entitled Brotherhood of Luciferians and Moral and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Masonry. I have that book. He worked with many, including Madame Helena P. Blavatsky, a known witch and head of the Theosophical Society, and Giuseppe Mazzani, an Italian revolutionary who became successor to Adam Weishaupt. He's the founder of the Illuminati. All right. So now if you ever want to study more about the Illuminati, just look up Adam Weishaupt. All right, let's spell his name. Adam, and his last name is Weishaupt. That's the founder of the Illuminati. Weishaupt placed Albert Pike as the head of the Illuminati operations in the U.S. However, they eventually created one unit, then conspired and divided the work to create the one world government. Pike is also believed to be instrumental in forming the Ku Klux Klan. Politically, Pike was a strict nativist. He joined the Know Nothing Party. That's an anti-Catholic, anti-immigrant agitators, but left when he found the party supported slavery insufficiently intense. All right. So when the party decided to support slavery intensely, all right, at the outbreak of the Civil War, the transplanted Yankee supported the Confederacy and was made a brigadier general in the army. Pike was not a good soldier. He oversaw a regiment of Native Americans, but was unable to control them at the Battle of Pea Bridge in 1862. Some of the men under his command committed atrocities, sculpting fallen Union soldiers. After further run-ins with his superiors in Richmond, Pike was reprimanded and resigned his position. All right. You could read more about him and there's some sources that you read. Now you have John Edgar Hoover. All right. He was born January 1st, 1895 AD, and he died on May 2nd, 1972 AD. An American detective and first director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI of the United States. All right. There goes John Edgar Hoover. He was appointed as the fifth director of the Bureau of Investigations in 1924 AD and was instrumental in founding the FBI in 1935 AD, where he remained director until his death in 1972 AD at the age of 77. Hoover used COINTELPRO's operations to conduct his own personal vendettas against political adversaries in the name of national security, labeling Martin Luther King the most dangerous Negro in the future of this nation. Hoover ordered around-the-clock surveillance on King, hoping to find evidence of communist influence or sexual deviance. Using illegal wiretaps and warrantless searches, Hoover gathered a large file of what he considered damning evidence against King. Hoover, animus towards radicals of every kind, led to an aggressive investigation. Both the Ku Klux Klan and Martin Luther King Jr. and other black activists in the 1960s. At the same time, he maintained a hands-off policy towards the mafia, which was allowed to conduct its operations nationwide, practically free of FBI scrutiny or interference. In public, Hoover waged a vendetta against homosexuals and kept confidential and secret files on the sex lives of congressmen and presidents. But privately, according to some biographers, he had numerous trysts with men, including a lifelong affair with his associate, Clyde Tolson. All right. So there you go. He was able to blackmail people by having keeping a sexual log of people's sex lives. All right. Especially homosexuality. All right. Much like what Diddy did. Diddy documented a lot because there was cameras all in Diddy's house all throughout. And it's said that that's how he maintained a certain level of control, and that he was actually planted because there is a FBI branch in the hip hop. All right. So a lot of those people are really informants and placed there. All right. So then you have Adolf Hitler. All right. There you go. All right. The Nazi Party. So Adolf Hitler, aka Der Führer, that's the leader. All right. In the language, Der Führer, that means the leader. Born April 20th, 1889 AD, he died April 30th, 1945 AD, whose original last name was Schicklgruber. All right. Schicklgruber was the national leader of the National Socialist Nazi Party from 1920 to 1921 and the Chancellor of Germany in 1933. AD until 1945 AD. Quoted in the World Book Encyclopedia as one of the most evil men in history. He was also a Satanist and a Luciferian. He was a part of the Thule Society, which was founded in 1912 AD by Dirk Eckart, and founder of the Nazi Party and Nazism, who taught Hitler about occult and satanic worship. Hitler, who was in close communication with humanoids from the constellation of Aldebaran, called the Ashtar Fleet Command, held these extraterrestrials beings with great reverence and respect. The physical trait of these beings were having blonde hair and blue eyes and extremely pale skin. Hence, Hitler attempted to breed a race of Aryans, whom he said would be the perfect superior race, people with blonde hair and blue eyes, which described the Ashtar Fleet Command, who he held with great respect. All right. So you see, Hitler didn't have blonde hair, blue eyes himself, but that's why, now you know why he was pushing that. All right. It was because those aliens, those extraterrestrials from the Ashtar Command, all right, which he respected a great deal. So these beings gave Hitler a lot of technology and flying saucers, which Hitler took out to Antarctica. These extraterrestrials were responsible for the technology plans for a superior race. Hitler's establishment of concentration camps to enter Jews and other groups that were believed to be a threat to the Aryan supremacy and deemed intermention or subhuman. All right. That's the other language. All right. German, meaning subhuman. Or socially undesirable, resulted in the death of more than 6 billion people in the Holocaust. Hitler and the Nazi regime were also responsible for the killing of an estimated 19.3 million civilians and prisoners of war. All right. His attack on Poland in 1939 AD started World War II, and by 1941 AD, Germany had invaded and occupied much of Europe and North Africa. All right. So these are their different leaders. So Za'amat's religions and denominations, sects, fraternities, missions use any and all things to draw in unknowing Qasas-huu people who will lose their Ba'ahu souls to demons pretending to be a Wawed good God, as they ask to kill, offer, murder, slaughter, sacrifice to us a sweet-smelling savor of burning jasad flesh. 140. Sprinkle fresh Daman blood on altars to them, and they, Ajud, believe these are good deities. They are master deceivers. All right. Those deities themselves are master deceivers, and the ones working on their behalf are master deceivers. All right. So now you can really see that the Adamites are essentially treating the world how they're being treated. All right. Because these Ashtar Command beings and all these other beings, there's a means to an end. They're just using them. All right. And that's why you see so many planes crashing now. Because the reality is that there's these technology that they just can't keep up with. Because this was the extraterrestrials that were helping them. Now, Bob said that they were abandoned. So with these upgrades, they didn't get the rest of the formula. All right. So you see, without the help of the extraterrestrial overlords, things are falling apart. All right. So the technology, it can't keep up. All right. Things are crumbling the system. All right. And that's why. All right. So 141. And those who don't accept them and their overlords, they talub seek to label and destroy. Stop all facts, replace with akak, faith, fiction, legends. Stop all who teach facts. All right. I like to think of myself as one of the most unproblematic people. I mind my business in my own living room, camera up, and share the scrolls. All right. And it's like, I'm using me as an example. It's not a big attack. But even today, I still have people saying, why I'm not sitting here covering my head like this? Why am I not teaching like this? Right? Why? All types of different things. I actually got a message today. All these distractions to make me maybe feel discouraged so I could stop reading it. All right. Because when I wasn't reading it, no one was bothering me. All right. So also with Baabaa, you see how Baabaa, he's doing things, and then people come to say things about him. And you have even some of Baabaa's students that they sitting down. It's so crazy what some of these people are doing. They sitting down using Baabaa's doctrine, and they putting themselves at their Baabaa. All right. So it makes everybody look crazy. So by the time that people come into this information, they have to kind of undo all the damage and harm that many of his students has done on other people. All right. And a lot of these people are planted to do that. All right. That's all part of COINTELPRO, to confuse the facts. All right. So let's read that again. And those who don't accept them and their overlords, they talib seek to label and destroy, stop all facts, replace with Taraq, faith, fiction, legends, stop all who teach facts. This is their plan ET. Start wars, qatl, kill, murder, imprison, liars of liars. All right? We're not going to have old school versus new school. I don't care, and I don't have time for that. I don't really care how long somebody been around short time, long time. We all here together. We all healing together. All right? And that's what it is. Everybody's welcome. We just read the scrolls and get our story straight, because as far as I see, we all need this. All right. So you're not starting any wars, all right, and internal battles. All right. So this is their plan ET, start wars, qatl, kill, murder, imprison, liars of liars. The Lion cursed race of Qasas-huu Caucasoids will do anything for the Mudwawu devils that they worship as their god, the bloodlusting demons. All right. So you see that they're doing all this for their gods, their demons. All right. Their extraterrestrial overlords. And then for us in their image, the Caucasian image, we do anything to be accepted by them. All right. So we become their hopers. All right. And because they did not think it worthwhile to retain and expose the hakakat's actual facts of creation and deity, they were given over to depraved akal mind to do what not to be done. So they got so full of themselves, so arrogant and egotistical, that they didn't keep track of the facts of their creation. So now they just live by instinct, and it's getting more depraved. Just like Aleister Crowley. How Aleister Crowley, he died in a very depraved, poor health, a drug addict, all right? And living off and begging off of the donations of his followers, all right? Like many of people who want to be Baabaa. They want to sit in his seat, and they go on the internet and they start to ask for donations, all right, to live their everyday life while they condemn people for working a 9-to-5, but they take the 9-to-5 money. All right. So it's just the depravity, egoism, all right, and instinct. And the instinct isn't even towards natural, all right, because you can have natural instinct, you can have unnatural instinct. And many of us are somewhere in the middle, having some natural impulses, some unnatural impulses. And that's why we come in with the facts to bring it all back to center. All right. But they didn't have the sense to do that for themselves. All right. So now they have become filled with every kind of jawedness, wickedness, lost the way out of this realm at Mawat's death as trapped orbs or specters, spirits, unable to move on. All right. So they lost their roots, no grounding, no facts, no way back home. So they just fizzle out, right, on this realm. All right. They become Tayaf ghosts, haunting Mata earth and those who will welcome them inside their Bashar human flesh bodies, Akkad, Lot, minds. 147. Evil, greed, depravity. They are full of envy, hate, strife, deceit, and malice. All right. I'm also thinking about they have given, when people want dominion over others. All right. I'm not looking for dominion over others. I'm looking for, what am I looking for? Rahubat, Atum Ray. I'm going to mute you, all right, Zamal? All right. All right. So I'm sure that was an accident. All right. So I'm looking for liberation, not just for myself, but for all. All right. I'm not trying to do to others what has been done to me. All right. Because Baba, he liberates us. There's no successor. The successor is powers. As we get tuned in, our most sacred symbol. All right. Why you find it in the back of so many scrolls. As we remember, all right, who we really are. All right. Not these various instincts and egos and politics. All right. So they have become filled with every kind of jawedness, wickedness, lost their way out of this realm. At Mawat's death, trapped as orbs of specters, spirits unable to move on. They become Tayaf ghosts, haunting Mata, earth, and those who will welcome them inside their Bashar, human flesh bodies, or Akalat's minds. All right. Let them in your genes, all right? Well, then let me into your belief system. 147, evil, greed, depravity. They are full of envy, hate, strife, deceit, and malice. All right, I'm thinking about when Baba talk about our pickup, that nobody could sit in your seat, your zero-time reference. Your seat is for your zero-time reference. So there's no need to feel intimidated by somebody else coming into their own. All right. And when you realize that, then you see the whole big cooperation. So it is in my best interest that you succeed. All right. It's saying your best interest that I succeed, and my success is not a threat. All right, to you when you're in your non-mind reasoning. All right. But as you see, they birth gossipers, slanderers, insolent, jealousy, racism, arrogant and boastful, shameful ways. They invent ways of doing evil. They are senseless souls, human debauched beasts, weak and wicked, and seek your physical and spiritual destruction out of hate and kanant. That's jealousy of your fatal natural nature, being in tune with planets as F major, F flat, and F sharp. And the cosmos. All right, so the planet, as you learn, and tones DNA molecules, sound tone DNA molecules, is the earth is mostly feminine, all right, but overall it's F major, all right. F sharp is feminine, F flat is masculine. You have the cosmos, the same thing, but it's going to be on C major. Then you have the flats and sharps, or your femininity, your masculinity. Then you have in harmony together as the major or the child. And then you have your katata, your physical body, as A major, A flat, A sharp. All right. Those are how we're in tune. But for healing, we go to the major, because that's where you go back to your child state. As a child is Panatharu. All right. And that's neutral. So you being in tune with the Kale Makwanat omniverse to this very Wahoo Makwan universe. All right. So that's what they're jealous of, that you are in tune. They're jealous of you already being in tune or your potential to be in tune. Because as far as Baba says it, we're not in tune. All right. Not yet. But the fact that that's what this is here for, to heal you so you can get back. The fact of the matter is that we're blocked. All right. They're actually cut off. All right. So 150, you are the center. This they hate, your rhythm in rhyme with Fataro Fatah natural nature. Your ability to rhyme in rhythm with Fataro Fatah natural nature. You being able to be loved by the Shamash, Shamash sun, and its rays without it killing you. Your inner healing Sakamat's powers by your Damamat, blood's hemoglobin, and the amount of plasma, your skin's ability to repel water, your melanin in your skin, the fact that you are the first creatures on this planet grown in its Fatah Fatah natural nature as Nubans. All right. So you weren't just grafted. Yes, some graftation has happened. But the fact of the matter is that they're going back to the fact that you actually grew with the very growth cycles of natural nature. All right. Throughout the boundless universe, down to this very planet. And that's what we're getting back to. That's why we go to Nataru. We don't go to Anunnaki. Because Anunnaki got their own politics. Some of them good, some of them not good. All right. We go into the natural growth cycles. All right. That's where the rhyme and reason comes from. All right. You Nagad Nadu, Negroids, Nubans, walked beside dinosaurs. You mapped the constellations of stars and their movements. You laid the ley lines. You built the mounds and pyramids. You welcomed the star people, and they taught you many things. All right. So you interfaced with others. You lived beneath the Mayayats, waters. Then came on land as a result of a great tsunami, which hurled millions of you to dry land where you began to live. You have and had the Nadaru and Razaku as your Muslafu ancestors from the Sabatat stars. You are the ancient ones here, the Ananzazi, the Mutatu, all right, the Tahites, Mutatu. All right, the ones who are Tahites, no God except Ptah. You're not just talking about some guy in the sky that's masturbating with an erection, like people like to say. No, Ptah. You're talking about the whole race of people, no God except Ptah. All right, the parents. So Ptah, all right, the Ptahu, the Tahites. That became Shabu. That's tribes, the Yamasi and others. They have the Anunnaki and the Mukmaku, Pleiadians, as their makers from the stars. They are the new ones here, talking about the Qasas-huu Caucasoids, the Madamu Adamites. Among their Anunnaki, Mukradu children of Anu, were wars and conflicts. The two sons, the eldest Inki, a half Shakak brother, and Enlil, and their sons and grandsons and daughters, both claim their creation as their only true. Both claim their creation as the only true the God, deity over the Madamu Adamites. All right. So Enki is saying that they want to be the one true God. Enlil saying they want to be the one true God. Enki and Marduk and Nabu versus Enlil, Ninurta, and Ishkur, and their relatives, both Ayashu, males and female, have conflict to this Zamut's day, as do their humanoid offspring in Murabu, Europe, and other Murasat lands in the east and now west. All right. So notice it says Enki and Enlil had conflicts, and so do their offspring to this day. All right. So now you see these Anunnaki, because it says we were here already. We were already here. And then we welcome star people many times over. And some of them taught us things, and things happened to us along the way. All right. So our power is not Enki. All right. Enki actually gets his power from us. All right. 159. And how did they live so long? Wakut's time alteration by traveling so fast that Wakut's time stops and reverses, an age-reducing machine. And mostly what they learn about Pa Nagad Nadu, the Salal, the Negro race, Pa Nagad Nadu Salal, the Negro race, is whatever they touch, they master and overpower Pa Kakas Nadu, the Caucasoids, in every way, shape, and form. And because of your Kahen divine DNA, they Karuf, they fear you. And that Karuf fear became hate onto racism that is ending their days, as no one wins the race in racism. All right. We don't hate. All right. The only way that we're racist, because Baba broke that down, we're racist in a form of ist, like you have a scientist, a chemist, you have a racist. All right. A racist is one who takes time to learn and master the various races. All right. So it's one who does or perfects or studies. All right. It has nothing to do with hatred. All right. So a scientist. So the race. All right. So no one wins the race in racism. All right. So it's not a race. The fact of the matter is, to each their own. All right. And we going back to our own. All right. And if everyone goes back to their own, then you clean up the ecology. All right. And all these hybrid interactions and interferences, that it's time for them to fade away. All right. That's not hate. That's science. All right. So 163. And Musbatu Karadu Pareye, Sabian children of the sun, therefore have no excuse to hate others for their weaknesses or fatar, and natural nature. So do not pass judgment on someone else. Mind your business, in other words. All right. You share the facts, they accept the facts, they don't accept the fact. And then you're supposed to be busy with your task of healing yourself. All right. You have no time to hate others when you're focused on self-love. All right. That's a distraction. All right. So that other race, they have weaknesses. All right. In actuality, that's not an excuse to hate them. All right. Let nature run its course. Now, it doesn't mean be a victim of somebody. It doesn't mean have compassion to the point where you let somebody else abuse you. It just means it's time for you to heal. All right. So 165. For whatever point you judge the other, you are condemning yourself, because you who pass judgment do the same things they do. That's a big thing. All right. So that's why I was saying when Baba said, punch them in their genes. After I read a few scrolls, I said, oh, wow, Baba's talking about us too. Because you realize that, wow, in many ways, you may do things. That's why Baba's called a reformer. And a lot of people, their genetics can't take it. So they get angry, they hide from the truth, or they hate Baba, or whatever the case is. They hate the truth because it's an attack on them. All right. But the wise amongst us, we take that as that correction to reform ourselves back into the state. So we have no time to condemn others, because we may be laughing at Adamite genes like, haha, COVID's coming to get you. And then you realize that you actually have Rh negative blood yourself. All right. So the reality is that never mind them. All right. Because a lot was true for the Adamites has become true for you too. All right. So 165. For whatever point you judge the other, you are condemning yourself, because you who pass judgment do the same things they do. Now we know that natural nature's judgment against those who do such things is based on hakakat's actual facts. So when you, a mere person of one Salah race, pass judgment on others and do the things they present before you, do you think you will escape natural nature's judgment? All right. So we can judge Caucasians for something wicked. Let's say we judge Caucasians for the jealousy that they have towards us. But then when we step back, how do we treat each other? All right. So if you sit back and you think, if nature is judging the unnatural nature, is nature going to make a exception for me just because I have melanin? All right. So now you don't, there's like, one of the things I had said to Baabaa, I was telling him certain things that I was experiencing. And I said, everybody is thinking that what they're doing is so important and so much more important than the next person. So they belittle each other's work. And then on top of that, no one is doing so well to afford any arrogance, because when I look around, there's really nothing that I like that I see, honestly. All right. So who's doing so well to afford any amount of arrogance at this moment? All right. So when somebody has said that Baabaa was upset with the way we dressed, and you had a lot of people, doubling down, I'm like, Baabaa also talked about the domestic violence going on in this tribe. He said, yeah, women got to get together, because there's a lot of women in domestic violence right now in our tribe that they can't leave because of finances. There's so many ways of things that's happening, in the many layers. And you have the same people that's not making way. There's children that committing suicide in our tribe. There's people that's homeless. There's so much going on. And it's like, where are these beautiful gowns to wear to walk around crackheads and heroin addicts and people begging for money? Are we creating this environment, or is everybody accountable for what's going on around us? So it was like, no one is doing so well to afford this amount of arrogance. And I don't think anyone made the pickup. All right. So when somebody was like doubling down, like they're upset at the sisters, like, yeah, you sisters, you women down out loose. What did I say? I said, the person didn't say anything back because it was true. I had responded, and then the person said, well, Bob was upset. I said, Bob is the only one that it's understandable why he's upset. All right. I said, it makes sense why Bob is upset, but why are you upset? They didn't say nothing. All right. Because throughout the years, all the things that Bob said to do, who has listened to everything,
Mm-hmm.
So, Rahabat, I saw you unmuted. If you would like to, anybody like to say anything, feel free. So I'm gonna read this again. All right. What caused that train of thought? So we're on 166, page 26. All right, verse 166. Now we know that natural nature's judgment against those who do such things is based on hakakat, actual facts. So when you, a mere person of one Salah race, pass judgment on others and do things they present before you. Do you think you will escape natural nature's judgment? Or do you show contempt for the riches of their wicked Tapal world because you desire to be in their Shabbat image and after their Shabbat likeness? All right. Some of us, we may be in the image in one way. There's so many ways to be in the image of this beast, whether it's your clothes, whether it's the way you talk, whether it's the type of materials you put on your body, whether it's the food you're consuming. All right. Baba told people a long time ago to stop eating chicken. I'm not beating anybody up for eating chicken because there's maybe things I'm struggling with, all right, to overcome in my genetics, myself. All right. But I tell you this, when Baba said, go get the vaccine, people ran to get that. When Baba said to live the culture, people didn't run to do that. All right. Baba said, chant these times. All right. That keeps you out of it helps to keep you vibrating so you don't get walk-ins. All right. So that's not just for your protection. That's for everybody's protection. Do people do that? You know, that's for them to work out. All right. So let's continue. So when 168, when all is asked of you is tolerance and patience, and not to duck when the sawab truth is thrown at you. All right. So all that is asked of you is tolerance and patience, and not to duck when the truth is thrown at you. All right. So the thing is that you told the sister, all right, stop eating pork. All right. When she's ready to stop eating pork, that's when she will. If she ever gets there, all right? That's where tolerance and patience comes from. And then for yourself, are you the one that's ducking when truth is thrown at you? All right. When truth is thrown at that other person, that's that person's business. All right. So I came giving you what you wanted until you learn to want what I really came to teach. Truth is truth. All right. I don't learn well when something's covering my head. When I'm like this, I'm gonna use that as an example. All right. Unless it's cold. If it's cold, I'll sit like this. If it's hot and I'm sitting up here sweating, I'm not gonna learn very well. All right. This has nothing to do with truth. All right. Now, if I want to put my shawl away, I can pull it out. All right. I could put it on. I can put it aside. I don't have to ask like, oh, I'm cold. Brother, can I borrow your jacket? Can I wear this over there that doesn't even match? All right. I have a very versatile thing that's very aesthetically pleasing and very functional. All right. I can at times put it over my head. I can put it around my shoulders. I can sit like this sometimes. All right. So, and if I had a child, I could take it and wrap it this way and carry the child on my back too. So many ways. All right. So truth is truth. All right. So all that holier than thou, and Baba said another thing, it's always the self-righteous that's doing the dividing. All right. And what is doing the dividing? You go back into the prism skull. That's the work of light, the blinding white light. All right. So you just stay in your lane, you heal through your process, and you respect nature to go through its process. All right. And nature is not just happening to you, it's happening all over. All right. So I came in Bashar flesh to lead you towards repentance. All right. So here's Baba talking to us in the God Nadu, those of us who have been affected and infected. Because if I was already good, what would I be repenting from? I'm good. I don't need Baba. I already know what to do. All right. So Baba said he came in the flesh to lead you towards repentance. So we're all healing from something or another because things happen to us world over on this planet. All right. So where's the arrogance? And when you think about the things that how far you've come along, then you learn to celebrate the wins of others. All right. Because you know it's not easy. If you're really doing it, some things are easy, like, oh, okay, stop doing that. Wow, I didn't even know that. I'm not a big animal lover, so if they said no pets, that would be easy. Oh, pet gotta go tomorrow. But something else might be more difficult, that's more integral in my life. All right. And it might take some falling down and getting up, you know. And everybody's going through different things in their genetics. You don't know what that next person's journey is all about all the time. All right. So there's the repentance. All right. Yet because of many of you and your stubbornness and your unrepentant hearts, you are storing up wrath against yourselves for the day of Paa Taraq, the overseers, and the days which precedeth their return by natural nature's wrath. All right. So a little thing about that. All right. It's not just some entity that's coming here to punish the bad people. It's not about that. It's about being able to withstand the frequency. All right. So for example, let's just say you've been, I don't know, taking bleaching cream, and then you go out in the sun and it burns you. All right. A lot of the times you get a little grace period where your skin gets a chance to repair itself. So you stop putting on the bleaching cream, and then in a while you start to build your natural protections back up. All right. Now you can withstand the rays. So for you, it's not a wrath, it's a healing. But if you're too far gone, all right, you're too far away, that might just take you out. All right. So we're preparing ourselves right now for the return of natural nature in its full glory. All right. So we can withstand the changes. All right. So I had certain dreams that made me stop doing certain things. All right. Like I had a dream not too long ago, something about chicken. And I dibbled and dabbled in chicken, although I grew up not eating chicken. That's the funny thing. And it's like something happened. I mean, that reptilian just wanted to come out. And then I had this dream. And it was that dream that was needed. Not it's like I read it in different scrolls and I was like, yeah, I'll have a little piece of chicken, a little compromise. I mean, I know better, but it's like, okay, I still want to eat that sometimes. And then that dream just shifted something in my DNA. And the stuff I saw, I just have, ever since that dream, I just don't desire it at all. You know, I'm sure I could turn that genie back on, but why would I want to? All right. So it's like I want certain favors. And also when I travel, there's certain things I do to be able to travel. So for example, if I'm going somewhere tropical like Africa, if I'm going somewhere Caribbean, somewhere in the rainforest or something like that, I'll do a detox first, because I do notice that nature deals with me different. So I won't get bit by mosquitoes. So I'll give up sugar and flesh for and then I'll travel, and then the mosquitoes don't bother me. But if I didn't do that, that'll be torture, right? So that's what it's all about. It's about healing, so you can, why suffer when you don't have to? So many of you in your stubbornness and your unrepentant hearts, you are storing up wrath against yourselves for the day of Paa Taraq, the overseers, and the day which precede their return by natural nature's wrath. You make the choice to worship their Satu Akak, six ether spirit Gadad, by whichever Renan name, and Ragub, reject your own Muslafu ancestors. So whichever form is coming, all right? You like his brand of six ether better? Or do you like his brand of six ether better? Maybe you like his brand of six ether better. Do you prefer his brand of six ether? All right. So people are doing things against nature in various ways. All right. So you make choices to worship their Satu, Akak, six ether spirit guide, by whichever Renan name, and reject your own Muslafu ancestors, Musbatu Sabians. I myself urge all to watch out and be careful of those shadow people, those who cause division and distractions. All right. Maybe I'm not the best. Maybe I'm not the best dressed sister in the tribe. So, all right. Fashion is not really something that interests me, to be honest. All right. I do have nice clothes, but it messes up the screen. But that's not really what interests me. Do I speak the language good? No, I don't. You know, I read the scrolls. All right. And then there's other people that they do things really well. If we all played our part, we could probably perhaps all help each other. All right. But now somebody comes and pick apart. All right. I'm just imagining somebody's teaching me the language and they have a baseball cap on while they're teaching me the language. And somebody comes and like, don't listen to him because he has a baseball cap on. And it's like, you're distracting me from learning the language now. All right. So be careful of that. All right. 172, they put obstacles in your way that are contrary to your own true way, Wu-sabat. Avoid and keep away from them. For such black mudwawu devils are not serving Pa Nataru, the overseers, except for their own appetites. All right. So let's take a little moment there. Would anybody like to say anything? All right. So we're going to stop recording and start again.